Hello and welcome to OrangeJuiceCast. We haven't done one of these in a while, and basically this is just a veiled excuse for me and my lovely guest, Otis. Say hello, Otis.
I'm happy to be here. Please, someone fucking help me. I've been trapped.
I finally got him to agree to do a probably 2-hour-long Steel Ball Run podcast. But what we're actually doing is talking about how much we love the whole of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oi, Josuke!
ほう、向かってくるのか。逃げずにこのディオに近づいてくるのか。Do you understand? Oh no!
It's
right?
good. It's a good series.
It's very, very good. So I think it's best if we just go through like the parts and then just do like a general overall.
Yeah. So we always threatened to do the JoJo and Dark Souls podcast, but as it turns out, JoJo is quite expansive a topic, and we can probably talk about it for 6 hours.
That's very
true.
However,
we can condense time using our stands.
News of Zawaldo.
News of Zawaldo. To condense time. 6 hours of analysis in 2 hours.
I know.
What accent that is.
Well, I mean, we're going to be, I don't know. We're going to be doing, 5 minutes per part and then 85 minutes on just how good Steel Ball Run is?
Well, maybe. Who knows? Let me preface this by saying Jaz is the big JoJo fan. I'd still say, like, it's my favourite series of non-interactive fiction.
I agree.
If you want to specify it like that. But Jaz is obviously, he got into it before me. Or did he? Let's have a look at the history books.
That's not true.
Book.
You
That's
showed
not true.
Me.
Yes, what happened was, I've heard about JoJo for fucking all my life. I don't know how. It's just omnipresent. I didn't know what it was. I just heard the name and knew it was Japanese. And I decided to watch it around, when was this, like 2017 or something? And I watched like the first 4 episodes, and then the Switch came out, and you came to my house to download Zelda, and I was like, oh, by the way, while this is downloading, you should watch out this crazy anime series. It's called JoJo. It's so weird, man. And you watched the first 2 episodes of that, and you were like, oh, that's pretty good. I might watch some more of that. And then you had Joseph Joestar tattooed on your back the next day.
I now have a star tattoo on my shoulder because I am a Joestar.
That's right.
It's mine. Obviously, that is like, because it's weird because you introduced it to me, but you only watched like the first 4 episodes and then just sort of petered off. And then I went straight into it. It was like with the biggest, hardest cock, and was like, "This is the greatest thing ever."
Because I watched those first 4 episodes, and obviously Phantom Blood, the adaptation's really good, but Phantom Blood is fucking stupid.
It's alright.
It's not very good. Let's be real. No. And now that I've read the manga, it's really not good. It's really not good.
Oh yeah.
So I don't blame myself, and I don't blame anyone for watching Phantom Blood and then not getting into it. Even Battle Tendency.
Sure.
To some degree. Even fucking Stardust Crusaders.
Parts of Stardust Crusaders, definitely, yeah. But and then as soon as I was like, oh, actually, this is the best. And it was around about when I think Part 5 was airing, was when I actually was like weirdly up to date, and I was like, oh my god, I get to watch this every week.
That's when you started getting insufferable.
Yeah. And then I bit the bullet and started reading the manga, and I realised that, oh my god, it gets even better. And then I went, come on, mate, you've got to catch up. And then slowly you did. You were like, okay, watched it. You loved, loved Part 4, I think, the most.
That was around the time where I was reading Berserk, and I was like, this is the best fucking thing ever. And I told you to read it, and you're like, this is the best fucking thing ever. But have you read Steel Ball Run?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? How can it be better than
Our already enlightened brains just exploded, and the cosmos became so tiny.
Yeah, so then I started watching it. I wasn't too invested in it until Part 4, as you briefly mentioned just then, because Part 4 is fucking good. Yeah, and then I basically just ditto you. It's fucking great. Read everything. I'm fully up to date.
Same.
And I've started reading the manga from the part 1. I've read part 1. It's fucking shit.
I've read half of part 3 because I knew how bad the older parts would be. It's alright, it's quite jarring because of how good the anime is. But another thing I preface, I actually have heard of JoJo's before you did it on 2017 because I'm not
sure if you.
No, go.
I've heard of it. I don't know when I first heard of it, but I was aware of it ever since Duang.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, only because I worked in WH Smith's in around about 2016 and in the bookstore for people who aren't English, and I went through the manga section just like looking for a book to read while nobody's bought anything at the shop. And JoJo had this like really great hardback cover with this like striking art. And I was like, oh, okay. I picked it up and read some of it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is weird and interesting. But the problem is they only had Stardust Crusaders. And so I was sort of like, who are these? What are these people? I don't, I was clearly I'm in too far ahead. I need to go back and read it. So I never ended up reading or watching anything. And then you introduced me to my new religion.
Yes.
So I think... Yeah.
You you were the Jesus Christ of said religion. I was like the Moses. I gave the commandments, but then you turned it into a formal religion, and then I was reincarnated, born again.
And I'm slowly indoctrinating as many people as I can into the cult.
Yeah, I mean, how many people have we got?
About 6 or 7.
6 or 7. Nice.
Yeah. A lot of them are like, it's weird and gay, and I'm like, you need to get past part 1 and 2.
And then it gets even more gay. And
yeah.
But
it's hard to recommend something saying, don't worry about the first 30 episodes. But trust me.
Yeah.
It's like people who say Final Fantasy 13 is really good, but you have to get past the first 70 hours.
It is kind of like that, but it's also, you need that shitness for later on, and we'll get very much into that. Because as we said, this is the Steel War Run podcast.
Of course. I don't think part 1 and 2 are bad. I think they're quite good. They're just not like...
They're not bad.
They're not deific like the next few parts have become.
They are just so standard, but slightly elevated slightly by David Productions' animation style, and like bringing it up to date more with Araki's later style, I would say.
And memes.
Let me also say, before we get into proper discussion, as an ex-film student, I must say the level of discussion around JoJo is pitiful. Around anime in general is just fucking pitiful. Like, I watch all of these videos, like, I read it, and I'm like, this is fucking great, I wonder what people have to say about it, and they're like, oh, fucking hell, Lucy Steele, she's 15, don't look at the cover of volume whatever, you'll get arrested, FBI. Oh,
really?
What the, come on, man. Yeah. There's this, obviously there's some good people out there, I won't name names, because they're much more popular than this podcast will be, but, yeah, there's some good stuff out there, but the level of discussion is disappointing, and I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I agree.
You should be ashamed of yourselves.
There are one or two like really good like videos on certain aspects of it, but it's so good. I'm sure when the anime comes out, there will be an absolute explosion. Trust me. I think.
I'm sure. Yeah, like it's not even like Neon Genesis levels.
No.
And it really should be more than that. Because it's better than Neon Genesis. Saying that now.
I mean, I would say
that's not particularly controversial, but... Well, actually, to be honest, at first glance, even if you're an anime only, even at this point, you'd probably be like, what do you mean? If you're like into NGE and you only watch the anime of JoJo, even at this point, you'd probably be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
JoJo is fucking stupid.
Sure. It's I suppose, I mean, I think we might as well just get into it because there's just a lot to cover.
Let's just fucking do it, yeah.
So let's go with part 1, Phantom Blood. Now, this part came out in, what, the 80s? The early
very
80s.
late
It was
80s, yeah.
It's like the 87 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 87.
And as you can tell by the very rough art style of the manga, it was very much like Fist of the North Star.
I've got as I said, I'm rereading all the manga and I've started like buying the hardback volumes as they come out. I've only got Phantom Blood, so I've got it. It's in my fucking hands, and it's just like bootleg Fist of the North Star, and it's pretty shameless, I must say.
Oh yeah.
But it starts off. Speaking of just the manga, it starts off pretty well, like with setting up the relationship between Dio and Jonathan. Yes. I don't know how much we want to set up, but I assume people who are watching this already know.
Yeah, I'm assuming people know a lot about JoJo, but it comes down to the whole series as a whole basically comes down to the Joestar family versus evil incarnate, usually Dio. And I mean, they do set it up. What is the first thing that really interested me in that most anime or manga will have everything set in Japan. And this has it set in 1889 Victorian England, which is very interesting. They play rugby. They drink tea. They go to what is it, Ogre Road in London?
Ogre Street.
Ogre Street. And it to start with, it is just like your standard, just your standard like family dispute. Anime and manga where people fight, they grow up and they have like some sort of relationship. You think, okay,
they make Dio a very, very dickish character, and it's even in the manga that's very, very well done. Even like at that point in his career, he really nailed how much of a fucking prick
Dio is maybe the best villain because he's just so unabashedly evil. He has a backstory and a motivation which is so clearly shown with bare minimum, like it doesn't toil on it. It's just like, this is where he comes from, this is why he's a prick.
Yeah.
And
he's just pure ambition.
Pure ambition. That is, and then it it gets, and then you think, okay, this isn't that bizarre. It's just like a guy kicks a dog, is a bit of a dick. They play rugby. And then
kick my dog, you burn my dog, we play rugby.
Yeah. We become sort of bros, and then all of a sudden, it's like some sort of murder plot, and you're like, okay, poisons, murder, and then you sort of get a little bit of the old like bizarreness with Speedwagon and like his hat that becomes like a blade or something, and you're like, okay, fine, it's just like a wacky villain, and then Dio puts on a mask and becomes a vampire.
And it immediately loses its shit. Immediately.
Just like, what? And it goes, and he becomes like the most quotable villain ever. He's like, I reject my humanity. And they're like, how many breads have you eaten? Like, some absolutely class quotes. And you think, wow, this guy, absolute top quality villain. And then from then, he learns sunlight karate. And
which is just Hokuto no Ken.
Really. It's just Hokuto no Ken, yes.
That the introduction of Hamon is where the manga really starts losing its shit, because like it's decently well paced. Like it's not very long. It's 3 volumes and like 30 or 40 chapters, maybe even less than that. But it's pretty decently paced up until then with all of the pre-bizarre vampire shit. But as soon as Hamon is introduced, it's just like, well, here's a character. He uses thunder cross split attack. Oh, he's been defeated. Then the next chapter. Oh, no one's defeated it before. Oh, I'm dead now.
These are the monks from Tibet who also have this thing, and it's also a weight, and it's like,
And then Zeppeli dies after like 10 fucking chapters. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, okay, you clearly had to rush something out here, didn't you, Araki?
Yeah. And then they just bring back fucking Jack the Ripper, and then some old knights who were in like some trials.
Oh. No, yeah, that shit is fucking weird. It's like, Elizabeth I was actually really evil.
Yeah.
It was her sister. It was her sister Mary who was the really good guy. And it's like, have you like read any English history? Do you know how many people Mary killed? But anyway, we can ignore all that stuff. It's Japan. They're crazy.
Sure, whatever. So it is. You get introduced to Will Zeppeli, who just comes out of nowhere to teach Jonathan because he's the most pure person ever. You know, it's nothing new. It's very much and
yeah, there's nothing new in part 1.
No, it's very much like a good fan fiction. The art isn't brilliant, but it's serviceable. Everybody's a muscle bound like monster.
Yeah, there's that very famous frame.
Yeah, with his head's like tiny.
It's tiny fucking head. And that's only barely photoshopped.
I know.
It's really not much better in the actual thing.
I know. But I mean, it's interesting enough. It's an interesting. He does a very good job of having bizarre, out of context panels, where like he's punching a frog, and then the stone breaks from under him, sort of thing. Like, take that out of context, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. You look at it and you go, oh, okay. You know, he had that good sense of just crazy ideas and creativity.
Yeah,
right.
There's a hint of the future. I'd say the core of JoJo. It's sort of hinting at it, which is, I knew you were doing that. Well, I knew that you were doing that, bitch, and my entire plan from the start was to counter you thinking that. Wait a minute, though. I knew you were doing that. What? There's a bit of that. Not as much as part 2. Part 2 is where it really gets fucking stupid with it.
Because I think the two things that really stand out for me with, I mean, especially Phantom Blood, is that it isn't so much like, I'm strong, I'm really powerful and big muscles, so if I train really good, I can beat you because I work harder. It's more like, I'm smarter than you and could use my given ability more creatively.
Yes. Yeah, with the final fight especially, with the how to counteract Dio's freezing shit.
Yes.
It's like, it stops blood flow, so what do I need to do? I need to set my hand on fire, obviously.
Yeah. Great. It's like that and the like decent characters, because I did like Jonathan. I did like his interaction with Erina, even though all female characters in JoJo are the most one-dimensional things until you get to part 6.
Yeah.
I think his motivations were set up fair enough, and Dio is just such a wonderful villain, and it's such a good contrast between the two. That it's an enjoyable ride, and I think it's I think we'll mainly start mentioning a lot more of the anime from here on, because David Production did just such a wonderful job of making what would be probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10 manga into probably like an 8 or 9 out of 10 9-episode anime.
Yes, especially part 2.
Yes, and it's crazy because you think any shonen classic, it's just not like any classic shonen anime or anything, where at the end of this the main character dies on a ship with the main villain. They don't have a happy ending, and things you just wouldn't expect. It's not like I've saved the day, haha.
There's as I said, I've got the hard copies, and there's an interview with Araki, and he mentions stuff like this. So you said you like Jonathan. I mean, there's not much to like. He's super one-dimensional.
He's a gentleman. That's it.
Yes, he's meant. So Araki said that he's meant to. The reason he's boring. He said the words because he's boring because. He's meant to be the embodiment of justice, and he's meant to set up future parts, which I don't entirely buy, to be honest.
No,
like he's probably saying that retrospectively.
Yes,
but I don't think that was entirely planned. And he also said that back in the day, having a foreign protagonist and B having the protagonist die was a massive fucking deal.
Yeah.
So he was taking big risks apparently.
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, it was definitely breaking the mold, and even today's standards, like, how many anime or manga can you name with any characters that aren't mainly Japanese?
Attack on Titan.
I mean, that's not really it's like a fictional universe.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like they usually do fictional foreign people.
Yeah. If they've
Like-
got a weird name, it's they live in a weird, strange land. It's not like
like
I'm based
Code
in
Geass.
fucking Italy or
Code Geass is for like Britannia or whatever the fuck that is.
sure.
That springs to mind.
But I mean,
it is usually.
I don't mind that he's so boring because he is a good setup, and Dio and Jonathan are a good setup to the Joestar lineage, the rivalry between the Dio and the family, and like it's interesting, and it also sets up the fact that these characters aren't bulletproof. There is tension and drama, and they can die. Any character can die, no matter
Except
what.
JoJo.
Except you mean Joseph, right?
What? Yeah, I suppose.
By the way, there are spoilers in this.
Yeah. Actually, as we've said this many times, but you can't really spoil JoJo. There's only two things that I wouldn't spoil in JoJo, and that's the ending of Part 6 and the entire finale of Part 7.
Yes.
Which is half the part.
Yes. You're not wrong. I do agree. And what's most interesting is that, I mean, obviously David Production did a good job of changing the art style to be quite in line with it's like a mixture of the hyper muscle style, but also the very harsh lines and the iconic style that it has now. And it has some banging tunes.
It does have some banging tunes.
Absolute banging tunes. Not only is obviously every opening pretty much fucking awesome, but like Jonathan's theme is really good. Some of the background music is really good.
Oh yeah, like Zappelli's theme is pretty good as well.
Yeah, and this is like one of the most popular series in the world. That's only in the last 7 years, or 6 years, become anyway popular overseas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to note outside of Japan, In Japan, it's obviously the fucking the dog's bollocks.
It's the dog's bollocks. And then when Stardust Crusaders came out in 2016, then, us fat white people just went, oh my god! Yeah. So yeah, Phantom Blood is alright. I think there's not much else to say about it.
Yeah, it's alright out of 10.
It's alright out of 10. It's interesting that it ends a story. It completes a part. Like, the thing is wrapped up. And then you go on to part 2, and it's Jonathan's grandson, Joseph. And that I love this as a concept, because as much as I love One Piece, or I love your standard action anime or something, it's usually the same character, and they have a goal, and it's stretched out so far that they have to move around pieces and go to different places, and they can't really change the genre or the style very much. Whereas having
DragonBallZ.
So yeah, but I mean, having each part being a different character means you can change the genre slightly, you can change the character, and you can have a beginning, middle, and end quite succinctly.
Yes.
And it's so refreshing to have wrap-ups in in something like this, that there is an end in sight. Yeah. As much as I love One Piece, it's been going on for nearly 30 years. And there is a sort of end goal, but it's like, fucking hell, come on, come on?
It has sort of the Zelda thing going on, except way more interesting.
Yes.
Where it's like, it's different links every time, but then it's the same Ganon. It's in the same sense of this, it's different Joestars, it's the same fucking Dio most of the time.
And it gets weird. Or like Dio's influence, quote unquote, is
every single part you can trace back to Dio in some way, or you can trace back to the Pillar Men, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, Pillar Men is the only outlier, I suppose, but they have connections to Dio clearly. So part 2, we start in 1930s America with Joseph Joestar, who, as it turns out, Erina, who is Jonathan's wife, was pregnant with George Joestar?
I'm clear on this.
George Joestar?
George Joestar was his dad, though.
Yes. So she was pregnant with George Joestar and was floated to safety in Dio's coffin, which also has his other coffin. Don't worry about it.
Underneath, yeah.
And
no, wait, but she also had another baby there as well.
Yes, she had
that she picked up.
Another baby she was taking care of.
Yes.
That never gets mentioned ever again.
No, that was Lisa, wasn't it?
No, didn't she? Because Joseph is related by blood to Jonathan.
Yes.
Lisa is Joseph's
you're
mum.
Right.
Maybe
I'm so confused. It's so unclear.
Because George Joestar is George Joestar married Lisa. I think George Joestar married. They were like Lisa was like adopted by Erina. Or so, whatever. Right. Doesn't matter. Jonathan's grandson, New York. Turns out, because they can't be asked to go through the whole Hammond training, it's if you learn it, your children also have it as well. Really good.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fine.
Latent. Well, he's not like an expert or anything. He has it.
No. Dio is dead, or was a head at the end of part 1 in a jar.
Yeah.
And so basically this part opens in America, where there's like, straight off the bat, it's so much wackier. Joseph is like a kooky jokester who plays pranks and uses like weird crazy weapons and has like a fucking catchphrase, which is amazing.
Probably the best introduction of a main character in the series, I'd say, is where he's going up to stop the poor Black Smokey being beaten up by cops, as per fucking usual America.
Yeah.
And then fucking punches the fucking policeman in the face. The fucking audio clips because the punch sound effect is so fucking loud. I burst out laughing because it's fucking brilliant. Then there's the fucking Tommy gun scene. He just brings out a Tommy gun, charges it with a hammer.
Turns out he's got like 8 grenades strapped to him. Like, just fucking destroys people. He uses the fucking Coca-Cola to break the fucking policeman's finger. It's so good.
Yeah, I don't blame anyone who says that Joseph is the best JoJo.
Because he is the best JoJo.
Well,
I think so.
He's up there.
I love him. He's got mainly, he's probably the one with the most like arcs and development as well.
Really?
Well, he's got at least three different arcs of development, surely.
Sort of, but he's still a fucking dickhead at the end.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's very flawed, which is interesting as well, because Jonathan is this absolute paragon of righteousness and all that is good in the world, and Joseph loves to cheat on his wife.
Yeah. That sums it up, really.
Yeah, but basically,
he sort of gets a friend. He sort of gets some responsibility, but he's still a prick. Yeah,
basically. Araki wasn't all there yet. He wasn't at his peak yet.
No, he really wasn't.
But essentially, vampires still exist because of the mask. So they trace the mask or something back to Mexico, when it turns out that the source of the mask is these 4 apex predators, these like beings that are so far evolved above humans that they are just
gods
like
of fitness.
Oh yeah, they can like change their body shapes, and so they're the pillarmen because they are stuck in pillars. They can't handle the sunlight, so they make themselves into rocks, which is, bizarre in itself. And they can also eat people by walking through them. Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's sort of. Why did they make the mask? Was that ever explained?
The mask is like to turn humans into them, sort of, to have like subjects or something. But not really.
Something like that. Yeah, because they're not really vampires.
No, because the mask is destroyed by Speedwagon at the end of part 1, isn't it?
Yes, with a hammer.
But basically, when you get introduced to the Pillarmen, who have probably the most fabulous introduction with the best pose, the best music.
This is the start of the JoJo pose shit.
Mm-hmm.
That is exquisite introduction.
It's so destroy a load of Nazis, and pose in that they have no clothes on. Essentially, they're the most muscly, beautiful gods you'll ever see. And
awaken my masters.
Mate, that's when I was like, I really like this series. This has some real style to it. But I mean, apart from that, it's the story in part 2 is actually quite simple in that these guys are bad. Caesar and JoJo tries to beat them up, can't do it, loses. They say, "Oh, you're interesting at least because you know Hamon. So I'm going to give you like 90 days to not be shit." I think because does he meet Caesar up to then?
Yeah.
Has he met Caesar by then?
I think so. I don't know why anything happens in this series.
No, me neither.
At some point he meets Caesar.
Yeah, at some point he meets Will Zappelli's grandson as well, because it turns out everybody has sex and then fucks off. And he's also a Hamon user, and they're really, interesting and use their powers in a very interesting way. But turns out that they can't beat these Pillarmen, who the Hamon users were always meant to fight or something. Like it's like they're arch nemesis.
Like Hamon. Yeah, Hamon was meant to be the anti-Pillarmen tech.
Hamon being sunlight karate, just so everybody knows.
Just so everyone knows.
Because it's really important to the whole series as a whole.
Yeah, totally, man.
And they lose, and then they go, "Oh, we need to get better." So travel to Italy to train with a woman called Lisa, and they power up their ripple
by climbing an oily hole.
Yeah, for 30 days.
I don't think they're in there for 30 days, but they're in there a while.
They're in there a while, whatever. So they do it, and they're great, and they're strong. And then it turns out the Pillarmen are attacking, and they defeat the Pillarmen. But the Pillarmen are like... The body horror that the Pillarmen can do and use is like... That's what makes them quite interesting villains, is that it's not like, oh, I've punched you in the head, you're dead. It's like, no, their whole fucking... ventricle system is going to shoot out of their body and attach themselves to there's no limit to what they can do with their body.
That does come back later, actually. Now you mentioned it, I forgot about all that shit.
But even then, they're relatively interesting. AC/DC is just like a guy who fights. Wamu is interesting because he has sort of warriors' respect and pride, and Kaz is he likes to play guitar on people's legs.
Yeah, Kaz is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
You kind of assume that Kaz is like the most boring one, or AC/DC, I guess, is the most. But you sort of think Kaz is like just there because he doesn't really do anything. And as soon as he takes that fucking hat off, he turns into a fucking bitch.
Yeah, I know. And it's all about because the Pillarmen want some sort of big stone that grants them immortality and the ability to be in the sunlight or something.
Yeah, so they can be in the sunlight and become the ultimate life form.
Either way, this whole part is so confusing. Ends up with them fighting. Caesar dies.
You missed the. Yeah, I was going to say that's like the most important part.
Yeah, Caesar has a really great fight, really cleverly using sunlight and refraction of his Hamon bubbles to fight a person who can shoot air really bad and hit people and become invisible because of the air.
Yeah, and Caesar was stupid as fuck to initiate the fight in the first place, but the actual death scene is really fucking good. It's like probably the first really good scene in the whole series, I would say. Especially with like Lisa putting the cigarette in her mouth backwards. That bit was like that actually hit me a little bit.
Yeah, I know. It's because it's like you get hit over the head again of like, oh shit, yeah, anyone can die in this series. Doesn't matter. People can die, and there will be violence. And not only that, it was a good death because he didn't actually kill him, did he? He didn't actually win in the end.
No, he didn't.
But he manages to, in his last dying moments, use his own blood to help Joseph. In a bit of sacrifice.
Yeah, echoing the first part where Will gave
Oh yeah, Will dies as well
hammer.
in the first part.
Yeah, he gets
cut in
fucking
half.
ripped in half by a chain.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fucked up.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. They both pass on their hamon to the Joestars.
Yeah. And it's a really touching scene because even though they're meant to be like, you know, they don't like each other, they're sort of angry rivals, they do become friends and work together quite well, as you can tell through their fights. But I mean,
the openings. You've already said it, but the openings are so fucking good.
So
and it's especially good how they spoil the entire part once you know what's actually happening.
They seem to do that every single time. They put so many spoilers and foreshadowing bits.
Yeah, like how all the characters who die are always on the left and shit like that. It's fucking crazy.
You can have people who take like 30-minute videos breaking down one OP, and it's like absolutely insane. But no, part 2 is even more crazy, and then the final villain becomes. When usually you like scale up like the power from like, okay, Dio is like a vampire, he's pretty bad, but I mean, like, you know, if you have a lot of guns and some sunlight, you could probably get rid of him. This guy he transforms into the ultimate human being, the ultimate being. So he has 500 IQ, the ability to transform his body into anything, create life, survive in any atmosphere, anything. And so you're like, oh fuck, how the fuck are you gonna beat this guy?
Turns out even Araki doesn't know.
Even Araki doesn't know, yeah. He
just make up some shit.
As you'll find out with a lot of the series, he'll write himself into a corner and then write himself out of it, weirdly.
Yeah.
Because the thing is with Hamon, the concept of like their fighting mechanics is Hamon isn't explained very well what its actual mechanics and utility can be. It's
like electricity, kind of.
You can connect things as well, like through surface tension. You can
like they make the parachute out of leaves and shit.
Yeah, you can. But like if you're underwater and you can't breathe, you can't use it. But then sometimes you can use it.
Yeah, you need a small amount of breath.
And then it can also affect the environment in a lot of ways, but sort of not. So
yeah, it's just martial arts.
It's basically martial arts where it makes it very good to fight vampires. They're super weak to it. And so they get rid of him. At least they get rid of Kaz in an interesting way.
I suppose you could call it that.
Like where they crash into a fucking volcano.
They crash into a volcano. The volcano erupts. Joseph is on the rock that's getting spewed
launched
up
to fucking outer space. His arm has been cut off.
His arm's been cut off. It goes into Karz's throat, right?
Yeah, he throws his arm gets fucking thrown towards Karz, charged with Hamon.
And then he's like, "You fucking idiot! You didn't expect my hand, did you?" And he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And that split second of hesitation is what cost him this battle, or so the narrator says. And then he says,
this 500 IQ fucking being, and then he says something like the next thing you're going to say is, no, wait, you can't do that, Joseph Joestar.
No, it's like, did you plan this whole thing from the very start? And he's like, yes, bitch, I fucking did. And then it cuts to him going, I have no idea what's going on, man. As long as it pisses you off, that'll do.
Yeah.
So
and then he gets
launched out of the atmosphere into space.
And as Kaz is literally unkillable...
While the first opening is playing, that's important. It starts playing.
Oh yeah, of course. And your dick gets rock hard as it hits the table, and you're like, but obviously the best part is because you think, oh, how do you kill this unkillable thing? And he has to go into like stasis in order to not die in space, to not
because he has to breathe at least.
Yeah. He is a living creature, and so the only thing they can do is to turn himself into a rock, and he then drifts endlessly through space, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, they did kill him, they did get rid of him, in the only physical way they could do. Sort of thanks to Joseph Hamon, maybe.
There's 20 cars on Mars, as we all know.
Yes.
He stops. Yes, eventually he stopped thinking, which is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
It's also extremely cruel. He probably deserved it though, because he was going to commit super genocide.
He literally is. Yeah, I mean, he is a god. So
we will have to get into this actually about whether the villains all deserve their punishment.
Sure.
Cars probably does.
Because Cars does intend to literally destroy and eat every human.
Yeah, and he does stop thinking. So I guess in the end, like, who knows how long that took for him to do that. So yeah. I'd say fair enough. Stamp for approval. Morally, fine.
Yeah, he could commit suicide if he wanted to, but I guess
so.
Yeah. But and then he also, so you know, there's so much crazy wacky shit, like the scene where like somehow he puts like a bird into Caesar's mouth, Caesar puts a bird into Joseph's mouth. They eat fucking squid ink spaghetti. They have a Nazi friend called Stroheim, who we haven't even mentioned.
Just because you are a good guy does not mean you are a good guy.
Yeah.
Stroheim.
So he's a
Nazi.
He's a literal Nazi.
He's a literal Nazi. And he died. And the epilogue is like he died heroically fighting for his country. It's like, come on, man, you can't put that.
Whew, jeez. Oh, I mean, whew. Calm down, Iraqi.
You like died in Leningrad or something. It's like
Stalingrad,
what the fuck, man. You can't. Oh, Stalin. Yeah. What the fuck? You could have left that out.
Yeah.
He said he died of natural causes before the outbreak of World War II or something like that.
Yeah. Like, or like he doesn't become a Nazi or something, because but at the start of it he is like a straight up SS soldier.
Yes.
He gets sort of pretty much killed. Does he sacrifice himself for Joseph, or does he sort of he's just there and gets hurt?
I think both.
Yeah. And then you think, he's definitely dead.
Some of the best lines.
Yeah, you think he's definitely dead, and he's got some great voice acting. And then, by the way, he's turned into a cyborg with a machine gun in his stomach and some UV lights on his shoulders. It's great.
But he's a Nazi, but because he says Speedwagon. And because he says because of those two lines, you're like, okay, this guy's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, I just called a Nazi sick. Oh, no.
But it's almost like the way that like Christoph Waltz is a great villain in Inglourious Bastards, in that you can respect the character as like an interesting... I don't agree with him as a Nazi, but I like the character and the story.
Except Stroheim isn't... He's just a Nazi that's being like genuinely heroified.
Yeah.
It's really strange. It's strange.
It is strange because, I mean, you know, in most contexts, like, you'd be like, don't say anything good about the Nazis, because obviously the Nazis are bad. I mean, why do we have to, clarify that? But, I mean, the character itself is, I love you, Iraqi.
Yeah.
You can make people like Nazis. That's how good he is at characters.
Yeah, he can do what he wants. Just to warn you, we're 45 minutes in, we're still on part 2.
I know. Right, so he marries Susie Q, who is a woman.
He marries, and everyone thought he was dead. They go to his funeral. He shows up at his own funeral. He's like, "Oh, I'm alive! Ooh, wacky!"
Yeah, and then he's also banging Susie Q, as a woman he saved earlier after he was perving on his mum. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that. He wants to fuck his mum, but he didn't know she was his mum, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Moving on, part 3.
I'll never
forgive the Japanese.
I'll never forgive the Japanese. This is where JoJo starts in a lot of people's eyes. This is where, okay, he's hit his groove. He knows what he's doing. We've got Joseph's grandson, who is Jotaro Kujo, who's Clint Eastwood. Basically, the most... If you could bottle up badass into one character, this is it. He is the unwaverably cool, unshakably awesome, can beat everything himself.
Completely flawless in every single way.
Yes.
No problem phases him. He can solve everything.
And he's the best at everything. He is a Mary Sue, but also maybe not. Who knows? Yeah.
No, well, he is, really. But it doesn't matter. Because he is Jotaro Kujo. Mm-hmm. He is. He's the embodiment of everything that he is. So it literally doesn't matter that he's a bad character. because he's the best character.
Yes.
As a result of that.
He's so stylish and so well. He's so iconic, even though there isn't too much depth to him at all, as you say. But it's just, man, it's just fucking Jotaro.
And like Araki, he's come out and said like, oh, he had PTSD because of Stardust Crusaders. You know, he's like really shaky. He's like,
what?
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 No, he doesn't.
Did he say that? You're fucking joking.
He did.
No way.
Yeah. That's why. That's why he hates using Zawarudo, because he gets PTSD of Kakyoin getting punched in the gut.
Bollocks.
And that's why he gets scared at the part that I said I wouldn't spoil, because it's the same sort. Because when the knives get thrown, he's like, "Oh no, this happened before."
Interesting. He didn't need to. I mean, he doesn't need to. Whatever. I don't fucking know. So
yeah, no, exactly. Ignore it.
Straight away.
Main thing.
Straight away, stands are introduced.
Stands.
Stands
greatest
are
idea.
The greatest idea ever.
Yeah, ever. Like it's the best. Like, I don't know if you want to call it a superhero kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like in that sort of vein, it's the best idea you could possibly
to give someone supernatural powers. It's the best idea that's ever been created. That now it's so good, it makes me look at anything that gives any person any sort of supernatural abilities in any media and think, that's not good, that's shit, and that is not good enough. That's how good stands are. They're so good.
You can't commend the level of genius that Araki has to come up with that. Like, he's given himself so much creative freedom.
Oh yeah.
And like he uses it so well.
Oh yeah.
Like it's almost unfair that he came up with it and no one else can use it without like ripping it off.
That's exactly it. Like, if I was to write a show, I'd have to put stands in some way in and have to reference, I'm stealing from JoJo. It's so good.
At some point in many decades from now, that's just going to be a thing. I think that's just going to replace superheroes, because I think it's so much better. Because I don't know what a stand is. It's the manifestation of your spiritual power, and it can give you many different powers.
But it also doesn't make the person who's controlling it superhuman. So you can still die you can fall over and hit your fucking head and die. You're still very fallible. But it gives you an ability that, depending on your own intelligence, can be used in multiple ways. Yeah. And it's also a manifestation of the character and the psyche.
Yes, exactly.
So it's very good at character develop. You can tell a lot about the character from their ability.
Yeah, exactly. So it brings across characters extremely well, and it makes incredibly interesting fight scenes.
Yes.
A lot of the time you wouldn't even call like JoJo fights in the traditional shonen anime.
They're chess battles.
They're chess battles, but like 60 chess. Checkers going on with their fourth arm that they've grown out the back of the brain because they're so small.
Because they did tease it in like part 2 where they were like, oh, I've merged 6 icicles together and charged my hammer across it and stuff, and you're like, okay. But in this, there's okay, where do we start? Basically,
where do we start?
Okay, basically, Dio. You think Dio's dead? He's back. He's somehow, as a head, managed to graft himself onto Jonathan's body and laid dormant in a coffin for 100 years at the bottom of the ocean, and it's only recently been unearthed, and he is like a godlike being. He's super strong. He's super handsome. He's got this unnatural like charisma. Like, he's like Hitler level charisma.
So much for not bigging up Nazis.
Yeah, I love
turns
that.
Out
fuck's sake.
Turns out he was doing a lot of philosophizing in that coffin as well, but you don't know that until much later. But he's basically God himself.
And then he meets some old woman, some like spiritual woman who happens to have some arrows that grant you special powers called stands.
Yes.
Which, as we said before, are manifestations of your spiritual energy. And so he gets given a stand, which is like super ultra powerful, but it also means that everyone in your bloodline gets given a stand as well, for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason.
But only because I've done so much research, and it's still so like, where, what? Only if you're alive at the time, and at the time that someone is pierced with an arrow, only. So Jolene does not have a stand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Which also means that Jonathan got a stand as well, because his body is still alive, just not his head. So Dio actually has 2 stands.
Well,
if you didn't know.
Yes, that's true. Well, a lot of people think. Well, no, Dio has 2 stands. Dio's got Hermit Purple as well.
He's got Hermit Purple. Well, it's not actually Hermit Purple. It's
just his own sort of...
It's Jonathan's stand, is what it's referred to.
Yes. So, Joseph Joestar has to go to...
Who is now 60
years old, in 1983, travels to Japan because his daughter, Holy Kujo, Holly, or is it Holy? Whatever.
It's Holy, but like, what the fuck?
Holly Kujo is she's married a Japanese man, has had a child, and has sort of been estranged from him, but she still loves him and everything. Basically, he's heard reports that his grandson's in jail, and because he's possessed by a ghost. Turns out, not possessed by a ghost, he's got a stand. Hooray.
A stand whose ability is fast.
He can punch things good. Well, I mean,
it's fast.
It's fine, because it's very much like in line with his character. He punches people. He's just like straightforward. Doesn't deal with things that creatively. He's just very talented at punching people. And
you know what I'm saying when I say it's fast. It's not actually just fast.
No, it's like
we'll get to that. We don't want to spoil. We don't want to spoil Stardust Crusaders.
Sure, and like there's a lot. It's clear that he hasn't figured everything out, Araki, by the time he's writing this, because there's like a stand can only go within certain distance of you depending on what kind of stand it is, and so
Well, no, I looked this up, right? So that's only the effective range. So Star Platinum has an effective range of 5 meters or whatever. Yeah, so that's where it can punch really hard.
Yeah.
However, as you know, it's been bringing JoJo lots of shit in the cell.
Like
and obviously it has to go more than that. So they can go further than that. They just get weaker, like exponentially weaker the further they get out of their effective range.
And they can also shrink down to... There's a lot... To be fair, though, there is a lot of like things you would think this is a plot hole. But there is an explanation to it. They're not the greatest explanations. Yeah. But, whatever. And like, you can shrink down a stand to tiny, minuscule portions, and you can see through their eyes, and there's so much stuff you can do with a stand.
Yeah, JoJo is not about the details. It's about
the big
feeling.
Picture, the raw emotions in the fight.
Yeah. Until you get later on, then it starts to play upon those. But
yes.
We'll get to that.
So basically, you get introduced to Jotaro. You get introduced to Avdol, who's Joseph's good mate, but also
just a mate, nothing more.
Just a mate. Who also knows that Dio is revived, and as they go back to,
and he's a natural stand user, right? He's born with a stand.
Yes. So Polnareff, and so you can also be a natural stand user, which is just someone who just naturally has learned the ability to get a stand, which is very, very rare and very difficult.
I think like only Avdol's
and Polnareff.
The only one.
Polnareff is also one.
Is he?
Yes, Polnareff is a natural born stand user.
Oh shit. I didn't know that.
Yes, I think Kakyoin isn't. He got stabbed by the arrow.
Oh, I think Giorno technically might be. Technically. And like all of Dio's sons might be.
Yeah,
so
whatever.
I think they got pierced, but doesn't matter.
Maybe it's because no. Didn't they get the stat because Poochie fused with the green baby and
he did a second lot of forced stands shit. I don't know.
Because they only clearly got the stands very, very recently, didn't they?
No. Well, no, because the Poochie thing happened after Giorno.
Wait, we'll cut this out, but Bohemian Rhapsody, he clearly can't control his powers and use it very well.
Maybe, but then where did Giorno get his stand?
He's always had it. Just like Yasuo.
He's always, but it didn't like awaken. Yeah, sure, okay, whatever. Sure. It's fine.
Fine. You can, I suppose, if you're born from a stand user, you have more of a chance. Whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So you quickly go back to Jotaro's house. You realise that as a character, he's like a delinquent. He's very, really intelligent, very strong. He's like literally 6 foot fucking brick shithouse at age 17 or whatever. Beat multiple people up. He's just an absolute... He's the most handsome. He's the most muscly, the intelligent, just such a, like, everything. And his mum loves him. And he loves his mum too, but in a subtle way of, like, he doesn't want to show it.
Very subtle.
Very subtly.
Calling her a bitch to her face.
Yeah, I know.
Shut the fuck up, you annoying bitch.
But the problem is his actions tell more about his character than him.
I don't think we should spend too much time on JoJo.
No, I don't think so. No. He's just your hero. He's the hero.
You could rename the Mary Sue trope to the Jotaro trope.
The Jotaro trope.
Like that's yeah.
Absolutely.
He is just that. You know exactly what he is if you know what a Mary Sue is.
Sure. And so then it turns out that also Holly has got a stand, but as a weak female, her body can't handle it. It can't physically handle it, even though infant babies, apes, and rats can handle it. This woman cannot handle a stand.
Yeah, she's canonically weaker than a random fucking rat.
Yeah, he improved his opinion on women after he got married. I promise. It's weird because he generally gets married around about like part 5 or something, I think.
Oh really?
And he's like,
that's really funny.
It's really funny, right?
Let's make Trish actually do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's dying, and the only way she's in a coma, and the only way to save her is in like 40 something days. They have to kill Dio, and they know that Dio is in Egypt. Because Joseph has the ability to
he punches
a camera and makes a picture.
They see Star Platinum sees a fly in like 1 pixel
and draws the fly, and
then they go, that's a fucking CC fly. They're only in Egypt.
Shit! Yeah, so whatever. It's really funny because obviously it's really hard to explain JoJo because it sounds nonsense.
You forgot an important detail. Kakyoin tags along because he wants to fuck Holly.
Yes.
Yes.
So this becomes the regular thing of the main characters get attacked by enemy stand users. And it's quite interesting because in a normal fight, like with Frieza in Goku and DragonBallZ, you have the build up to the fight, they actually fight, and the resolution. In JoJo, there is almost like a horror aspect of something weird is happening. They don't know, is it a stand attack or is it not? Because you can't tell who a stand user is. You can't just identify
they can't. In universe, they can't. To a reader, it's very obvious because it's the most outrageously fucking dressed person in the room.
Yeah. It's someone who's dressed like a mix between a runway fashion model and a gimp.
I mean, that's perfect, yeah.
Yeah. And it's... These people have like an ability and they will use it, and they have to figure out the limitations of that ability before they can fight. And then it's a chess move of like, okay,
or figure out what the ability itself actually is in the first place.
Yes, and then what its limitations are to exploit them.
Yes, and it's not just my stand is stronger than yours. Pow 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 pow.
It's never that.
Sometimes it is. Well, not often. In fact, very rarely is that.
Yeah, but it's very much like, how can I use my ability to get a creative advantage over yours? So a lot of the time in part 3, it is just a case of Jotaro punches things.
Yes.
And he realizes that
Starfinger.
Yes.
Out of nowhere.
Yes. Yes. So they didn't really have like a well-written idea of a lot of the stands are they're quite basic in terms of like the ideas, but they still managed to sometimes do relatively creative things because of the other stands that we have. So we have Avdol, who joins, who can shoot fire. We have.
Did you hear what Araki said about Avdol and fire stands?
No.
He said that he regrets giving a stand such a powerful ability, and in the future, if he were to do a heat-related stand, he would make it have extreme consequences for the user. and that he didn't really use Avdol's like Avdol is like technically like the most powerful stand user in the whole series, according to Araki.
Jesus Christ!
Because like if you think about it, that's fucking insane, really.
Yeah, of course.
Like the fact that he can control fire without like destroying everything. And to be fair, he does pay off on that, like in part 8, but we'll get to that fucking.
It's true because Giacchio, the ice stand is really fucking powerful.
Yeah, because you're just controlling energy.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, Avdol is just sort of, because a lot of the time it's just like one person is fighting the stand user and everybody else is standing around talking about it.
Yeah, a bit.
But the thing that makes Jotaro so cool is that he's so shrewd and like Clint Eastwood in the Dollar trilogy. He can clearly identify when something's suspicious, and he isn't fooled very easily, which kind of makes up for his lack of like ability. So like he figures out the captain on the boat because of his he used his own mind games to try and figure him out, sort of thing.
Yeah. The scratching the nose thing, whatever. Yeah,
and so you've got Jotaro, you've got Joseph, who has a relatively weak stand that's only sort of utilized a few times, but he still has his ham on. You've got Polnareff, who stabs things with a sword very good, but can also attack at the speed of light.
Yeah.
Kakyoin, who can control people like a puppet, and also use the most ineffective projectile ever in the Emerald Splash.
And he can stretch really far.
Yes.
The stand can stretch far.
Yes. And you've got Avdol. And later on...
Oh, by the way, his fucking Kakyoin's ability is not to fucking paint things and then have them come to life, you fucking morons.
Yeah, I know.
That's just fucking... Like, JoJo fans are so fucking stupid.
I know.
That's so clearly... And like the whole deflecting the Emerald Splash thing, that's clearly just something a villain says, like, oh, I can't believe you did that. It's not actually fucking true.
I know.
He doesn't actually fucking draw events that come true. For fuck's sake, he's just doing stuff.
It's meant to be just like a cool introduction, and he uses his stand to do something to knock him over. But everybody's like, they completely forgot about his ability. It's like, no, it's because...
And it's like, Starfinger could have beat Poochie, could it? Fucking shut up!
No, it can't. He uses it when he'd rather punch someone than he'd use his finger. He's clearly weaker.
He uses it when he's chained up and he has to, like, stretch, like, 1 meter. That's the only use for... Anyway, now that we've solved the greatest crises in the JoJo fandom...
Sure. So a lot of the enemies' stands are like they seem to be like horror movie tropes. A lot of them. So you get like Chucky, like the stand that is just a doll. Devo. You get like the man in the mirror. So your reflection in the mirror is the enemy stand. Hanged Man. Yeah. So they're all
Jay Guile, right?
Yeah. You got the bloke who's just a car. The Freddy Krueger stand, which is Manish Boy.
Yeah, I will say Manish Boy, aka Death 13, was the turning point for me. It was like, okay, I fully understand the potential of stands here.
Yes.
Like him trying to remember things in his dream and communicate it to everyone, and everyone thinks he's crazy. That was fucking great. Everyone hates that stand for some reason, but I thought it was fucking brilliant.
I thought it was a really creative idea that him having to have his stand summoned by the time he's asleep.
Like getting knocked out with his stand out so that it appears in the dream is fucking brilliant.
It's a great idea because the stand itself that he's attacking with isn't very strong, but has this really overpowered advantage. And it just depends on how intelligent you are. So each of these characters has their own fights, and they're very interesting against very interesting abilities.
Polnareff always gets attacked while he's taking a shit.
Always gets attacked while taking a shit. It's really funny. And, I mean, we could just go through how it's because it's very villain of the week, but they're getting close. As they do, they get closer and closer to Egypt, and it's a world tour. And I find that really interesting because you go through places you wouldn't expect, like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan.
Yeah, it's true. It does go to places where you
Singapore,
really don't see often. Yeah,
all these places, and you're like, oh, okay, this is really interesting. And it's like, Araki clearly loves the architecture in the places like this.
They all look the same, really.
Yeah, of course. And it's
as he draws them.
And people do moan that it's very villain of the week in that it's like, this for some reason they know where they are. Something weird happens and they attack them. But it's. I
mean, and it is. Yeah.
It is, but it's very. I think just the style and the creativeness, really, it pushes something a long way. I think.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a villain of the week thing before I started watching it, so that actually did surprise me quite a lot. And it's not my favorite format of things. I prefer an escalating narrative, and usually a single setting is very good. And I think Araki in particular does that very well, which we'll see in the next part.
Yeah.
But yeah, part 3, villain of the week. There's a world tour, as you said, and then we get to the final boss.
Whoa! Before we get to the final boss, we obviously, so a lot of the Jobros die.
I should start before then. Yeah.
So we have Avdol who gets shot in the head, and we sort of go, oh fuck, of course it's JoJo. People die. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, Avdol's not much of a character anyway. He had that one gay scene, and that's about it, which is fine.
That was after the death. Well, spoiler for the thing we're about to say. But
was it actually?
Yeah, it was way after. Yeah, way after.
Okay then. Well, he gets shot in the head, and you're like, oh no, Avdol's dead. Oh well. And then it turns out he's actually not dead. He's dyed his hair white, and he's living on an island.
Yeah.
For some reason, and he comes back.
Pretending to be his dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason. Yeah.
And then. It just, as you go on forward, he actually does die in a very horrific way against a very horrific stand.
Fucking unbelievably horrific way.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, oh my god. Like, is Cream is the biggest death count of any stand?
Vanilla Ice is really fucked up. And it sucks that he's called Vanilla Ice and his stand is Cream, so it's Vanilla Ice Cream. And it's really fucked up. Like, he disintegrates, utterly destroys Avdol's entire body except his arms, which are left behind.
Yeah.
And
kills
it's
Iggy,
so horrific.
And he maims Polnareff.
But it's so horrific that you're like, there's no way he just died just like that quickly. Just it just happens instantly. You're just like, okay, he's been teleported to another dimension, and he's going to use his stand to beat him up inside that dimension and come back. But it's like, no, he's fucking dead.
No, he's gone. Rip.
And it's like, oh fuck. And then Polnareff gets the shit beaten out of him, and then their fucking dog gets the shit beaten out of him and dies. It's like, oh,
he sacrifices himself to win, but the dog also dies, and it's so oh my god, I can't believe this has happened.
Yeah, it's been a fun romp this entire time, and now everyone's fucking dying so quickly.
Yeah, I know.
It's a massive tonal shift, and it's one of the best in terms of just action, and
it's
not
a fake out
thinking.
as well. It's because you think, oh, he's died once before, he won't die.
Yeah, exactly.
But he does. They're just
false sense of security.
I know.
But and that leads into one of the greatest action finales, turn your brain off action finales. Immediately. But
fucking
Dio versus everyone else is brilliant.
It's
audio visually incredible.
Oh my god!
Fucking just following along, the things that they come up with, the strategies they come up with.
Because it turns out his stand can stop time, and you think,
because we don't know that at first.
And it's just so.
I mean, everyone knows that, right? Everyone knows that the world stops time, but they don't know that at the time. So, and I think one person we've recommended it to didn't actually know that either.
No. But it's very much it's done very well that you sort of you still have this mystery of how is he doing this?
How am I getting teleported down the stairs?
Yeah.
then when you find out the answer, it's oh, what the fuck? you're picking him up and moving him down the stairs. That's not very but they do a very good. It's very threatening, and he comes across very threatening. That's a good thing with all of the JoJo villains after. This part is that they're all extremely threatening.
Yeah, they seem like these unkillable gods.
Yeah.
And Dio's ultimate goal is he needs to kill the Joestar bloodline to fully heal the wound on his neck, to fully have all the power in the world.
Yes.
To be unstoppable.
Yes.
And so in this finale, Kakyoin tries to defeat him and does like what would be a really interesting and cool move in that he like puts his like stuff everywhere and like entraps Dio.
Everywhere.
But Dio is just so strong. He like one shot kills Kakyoin.
Yeah, and you're like, oh fuck, we're gonna find out what his stand is. Like he can't move out of this. He's gonna have to touch him.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out what it is. Kakyoin instantly dies. Like, wow, what's going on?
And then even then he like then afterwards like straight away kills Joseph after he basically reveals the stand's ability to Jotaro.
Yes. Well, you skipped a bit in that Kakyoin shoots the clock, which is fucking great. This is his last moments. He shoots the clock, and you're like, Joseph, you've got to figure this out, man. And he does immediately.
Because Joseph is smart.
Then he Spider-Mans through Cairo.
I love this series so much, man. I love this series.
He Spider-Mans through Cairo, runs into Jotaro. Doesn't just immediately say. He stops time. He says some bullshit. Barely gets it out in time before Dio fucking necks him. And what on his way to neck things, he like kills like 5 cats. And knocks them into people's food.
Into food. Like, Dio is so good.
You don't need to go that far, Reki, but you do hate animals.
Hates animals. The dogs die from Pet Shop as well. Like, hates dogs. Hates them. But it's so well set up that okay, Jotaro has fucking trouble to deal with this person. And also just all the lines, the editing, it's so iconic.
The sound design is fucking incredible. Like I
phenomenal.
Go back and watch the Road Roller because it's so fucking well like edited, and the sound is so fucking good. It's like fucking pneumatic drills. It's so, if you never watched JoJo, just watch that and just listen to it really fucking loud on headphones. Good. It's fucking incredible.
But even then, they managed to somehow make stopping time. You think, okay, I get it now. How do we beat this? They do so many interesting things to like fake out Dio with magnets and like. And then there's also, and then you think like the ending is like a bit of a cop out where it turns out that Jotaro has the same type of stand and can do the same ability.
But no, as I said before, it's like it's hinted at throughout the whole thing because like every stand has a very clear ability,
especially in the Derby fight. They very much hint that that Jotaro's stand could do something more.
Yeah, but like it's never clear what it does. All it does is seem to punch things, and you're like, okay, and it seems to be quite fast and like can react quickly. But then you're like, okay, what is the logical extension of that? It's actually stopping time.
Yes,
it's not that it's fast particularly. It's that it's stopping time.
Yes.
So it makes sense. It makes sense.
And
what happens if you stop time in stop time? You stop their time.
Yeah. And the fight lasts 3 episodes, and it goes just so many through so many bits where it flows back and forth. Where you've got the upper hand. They've punched Dio in the head. They've like faked out, and he's realised, oh shit, he actually can move in, stop time. He nearly defeats Dio.
Continually shifts throughout the whole thing as well.
Yes.
It's like, oh fuck, we are so fucked. Like, oh, we've got the upper hand. Oh no, we're fucked. Here's a comedy scene where fucking Dio
grabs hold of a car
into a shop. And it's like, you woman, throw me my leg.
He's like driving in the car and he tells the senator to just like drive through people.
Oh yeah, that's really fucked up.
I know.
You know, in the original OVA, in the English dub, the senator is voiced by Mario. Charles Martin himself.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Great. Oh no! I cannot do it, Dio. Yeah, and it ends in just like the road roller scene, which is, you know, it's been memed and parodied everywhere. It's just perfect. It's the perfect ending attack.
It's iconic for a reason.
Yes. You think, oh for fuck's sake, and then the logical extension of what Jotaro's been building up throughout the entire fight is he stops time to then gain the advantage against Dio at the end and defeats him.
By punching him really hard.
Yes.
In the left leg. And
that kills him. After punching him in the brain and destroying his head, punching him in the leg is the weakness.
Yes. No, what? No. So here's the thing. So usually, if a stand is invincible, you just defeat the user, right? But if the user is invincible, defeat the stand. So he punches the world in the leg.
Yes.
That's the important part. So he actually defeats him the other way around than the easy way. That's my justification for it. But as you said, logic and details in JoJo don't matter. It's all about feeling.
Yes.
And it feels fucking good.
Yeah, it does. It really is. Like I'm expecting some sort of Hollywood adaptation of this at some point. Okay. I know it's coming, and I'll be miserable. But
Netflix adaptation.
No one will. No, stop it. But part three is where JoJo gets going.
Yes.
And we could probably breeze through the next couple of parts, speaking about them quite lightly.
Well,
relatively.
We shouldn't, but we probably can.
Probably, yeah. So, before we leave off, let's just say, what's our favourite stand battle in this part?
In that part, I think I already said, like, Death 13, I just really like.
Oh, really?
Also, just the world. I mean,
interesting. The world's pretty great. My favourite is very clearly against Terence Darby, the younger brother, who's a gambler.
The younger, okay.
No, the gambler.
That's the older.
Brother. Sorry, yes. Yeah. Where it's not. Usually, it's like a we're an evil stand. We're gonna hit you in some way. In this one, it's I have a power that is only good at gambling, and I love gambling, and I have information that you need, and you need to gamble against me to get this information. And it's a stand battle where there's no violence. It's all about gambling and poker. And
mind games.
And it's so good because of how intricately done each of these games are. And they utilise Hamon and all of the abilities and everything they've got. It's wonderful. And the logical extreme of this like cheating gambler is taken to. And it ends with the best bluff ever.
Yeah.
A bluff so good it turns the man's hair white.
No, ladies. I wish I could roll my tongue so I could do that. Ladies.
Yeah.
It is very good.
It's very good.
His
and it has the best. It has the best English. Go ahead, Mr. Joester.
Go ahead, Mr. Joester. And his young brother also has great English as well.
Yes. Select your cur.
Jaggers.
Red Dragon.
It's good.
I mean, a couple of other things I want to point out before we move on. Just small things.
Okay.
One is the use of music, and as in the actual use of musicians and famous popular bands, as in all the stands and like things start to get named after Araki's favourite bands.
Not so much in part 3.
Part 3 starts off with like Egyptian gods and also the tarot cards, and then he just sort of gives up at the end.
Yeah.
And that becomes iconic going forward in that instead of it being like, Magician's Red, it becomes Red Hot Chili Pepper.
There's always been music references even from the very beginning, like Speedwagon,
REO Speedwagon,
all that sort of shit. But
Led Zeppelin is Zeppeli.
Oh, it's Zeppeli. So, but I'd say it's mainly just like empty references at first, and in part 3 it's mainly just like, I like this band, here they are. Part 4 onwards is where they start to actually like have relevance, as we'll see right now.
Yes. No. One more thing. I just want to add in.
One more thing.
I love how Araki is very good at changing a character midway through. So Avdol is the most bland, boring character throughout the entire series.
You're just saying this because he pisses on a guy.
No, wait. And then, after he dies and gets revived, quote unquote, he does the coolest thing ever where he goes,
Mohammed Avdol!
Yes, I am! And then he pisses in a guy, and then he also has a gay scene with Joseph Joestar. And in just the space of 2 episodes, I'm like, I love this character, I never want him to die. He's so good at just somehow adding just a couple of little things that make you go, yes, this guy is... I'd never want this guy to die.
I think you have a piss fetish.
Maybe I do. So with that,
Speaking
Dio
of
is
fetish,
defeated, Holly is saved, and we move on to part 4. Diamond
also
is Unbreakable.
known as the best animated part.
I would
chips
disagree,
down.
but
What would you say? 5?
I guess so. I mean, 3 is so
Right.
iconic, but has so many flaws. 4 is really, really, really good, but the structure annoys me.
Okay, let's not judge it before we
know.
even talk about it. So
Whereas
part 4,
5 is very comprehensive as a great overall story.
if you say so. Now,
Sure.
part 4,
Right. Part 4. Diamond is Unbreakable.
1999, Bizarre Summer.
Bizarre Summer.
Brand. That's the scene is set. Brand new Bedtown. Morio show. Morty Ocho radio.
So we open in 1999 in Japan in a little town called Morio. We see a new character called Josuke Higashikata. Not a JoJo in normal terms, but like the kana in his name would also spell Joe, so it's JoJo in another way.
Whatever. Hand wave.
Turns out he is the son of Joseph Joestar, if that isn't confusing enough. At the age of 60 or so, Joseph Joestar is fucking about and having a grand old time with Japanese women.
With really, really hot Japanese women.
Oh yeah.
At the age of like 60. It's like, okay, fair enough, mate.
In fairness, Joseph Joestar, he's like got that stubble, he's got that chin, he's like super muscly at age 60, and he's rich as fuck. Like, he can do what he wants.
He can do what he wants.
But
He's a dickhead.
He's a dickhead, and he's like known to have cheated on Susie Q multiple times, and
Fair play.
it's really annoyed her.
He's the greatest British anime character we'll ever get.
I mean, he's American, isn't he?
No, he's British.
I know he's British, descended from British, but because he lives in America, he's like known as American.
Part 2, at least, he's actually British, and then he relocates
his voice
to
actor's
America.
British in the English dub as well, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yes,
Anyway.
great English guy. Great, love that representation. We get the hooligans and we get the gentlemen.
So anyway, Jotaro goes to Morio for some reason to meet Josuke because Angelo is there. There's stand arrows.
So he gets like they have a photo that Joseph did where there was like an evil in Morio, and it's like you think, oh okay, some of Dio's disciples or something, and it turns out that some of the stand arrows have been spread amongst people.
Yeah, well, this is where stand arrows actually get introduced. We don't know that people get stands from stand arrows in part 3. It's just like, oh, these are stand users. Who knows where they came from?
Oh, really?
Just hide them. Yeah, they're not mentioned at all in 3.
No way. That's not. Yeah. I'm going to Google that while you do it. That is shocking to me.
No, that's true. And then, so they find out there's stand arrows in Morio, and they're making lots of stand users, and they get a picture of their spirit photography of a random murderer called Angelo, and that's why Jotaro went there in the first place, I think, like to find out what's going on with that. Though that's only relevant for literally 2 episodes. The Angelo part, not the stand arrows.
Yeah.
So after
and then
that,
it turns out
Josuke is the new guy.
That's the thing. That's the thing that annoys me because.
Yeah.
The thing is that the whole because in part 3 you have a conceit of like we have to go to Egypt to beat Dio. Okay, that's your end goal, and I thought that the photo of this like evil was like, oh okay, so there's some really bad person in Morio that we need to take care of, and then if it's not Yoshikage Kira who is the end villain, it's actually Angelo, who is a bad serial killer, but they defeat him within 2 episodes. And so the next half of the series is more like the goings on. And I mean, not that that's a problem. That is really good.
It's not a problem, Jazz. In fact, that is the strength of the part, I would say. The strength of part 4 is that it sets up this fucking bizarre town.
Yes.
And all the characters in it, and all of them are interconnected. And like there's those intercuts of like tourist information of all the weird sort of things that every town has that only the residents know about.
Yes.
And it just fucking it feels like a real living, breathing place with all this weird shit going on.
And there's like high school drama between people, and it's quite
it's slice of lifey. Really.
It's very slice of lifey, and you start to like a lot of the characters in the town. I do agree. I wish it was more like, because Jotaro doesn't have a reason to stand around.
Except for the fact there's going to be a big boss fight at the end.
I know, but there's like, we've defeated Angelo, great, we've done it. Hooray, nice to meet you, see you later. But in the end, it's like, I'm just going to stick around because, the stand arrows exist, we need to sort those out.
To be fair, they probably should sort those out. So, fair enough.
Because two of them are in... there's 2 stand arrows in Mario, it turns out.
Yeah, one from the Nijimura Bros.
And one from Yoshitezu Akira.
Or whatever his name is, yeah. So you say that, the structure puts you off. I disagree. I think the build-up is extremely important. And the fact that there is... Like, the whole point of Yoshikage Kira is that there can be evil next door, you don't know about it.
Yeah, of course.
And that's he's so good. He's the best villain.
Yoshikage Kira is wonderful. He's a wonderful villain. You think it'd be difficult to top with the all-encompassing evil of Dio, but you have...
you take the exact opposite direction of...
More subtle, more nuanced, more sinister.
Not megalomaniacal, fucking crazy motherfucker. You've just got this very, very, like, just don't pay attention to me, just leave me alone. I want to live peacefully, in quotes. And all that. He's such an interesting character.
Okay.
Like, it's not really done. There's no character like that in fiction, really. You can say, like, Norman Bates, whatever the fuck. Not really.
But he's a serial killer taken to the absolute logical extreme. Of, like, extremely intelligent, and then tries to blanket and anonymize his entire life. And does a very good job of it, and is living his best life. I didn't mean that as like the meme, but is living exactly how he wants to. He's healthy, he's fit. He has he just happens to be a serial killer, blessed with an ungodly serial killer ability.
That's exactly the point. Is that the stand reflects his character so well. Like being because like obviously in the anime it's like a fucking massive loud explosion.
Sure.
But like the actual ability is to destroy something without a trace.
Yeah, remove evidence essentially.
Yeah.
Which is for a serial killer to remove all evidence is
exactly, and that's his entire motivation is to live without being bothered by people.
Yeah, to leave no trace.
And then of course he gets a cat in his stomach that shoots fireballs, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I just wish it was like that photo, like they kill Angela or whatever, and then they go, actually, this photo, I don't think this photo is exactly who this person was. Maybe I need to stick around. If that was it, then I'd be like, okay, then you can sort of like, the whole like finding out where the stands are coming from sort of thing feeds into the whole high school slice of life stuff. I like.
Well, it might be fair to assume that he hadn't come up with Kira at that point.
I don't think he has.
Yeah.
Which is why when he gets
assume.
like you sort of because you feel like it's kind of I feel like it was kind of aimless, in the first half. Not that I didn't enjoy half. Like the stands were great, the characters are great, the set pieces and everything are great. But then when you get introduced to Yoshikage Kira at halfway point, you go, oh, I see. This is the crux of this story. This is a great way to finish it. It's like this whole lovely town versus this evil that is rotting it from the core.
Like I definitely do see the aimlessness point, but I think it's not aimless if you just consider it to be like setting building. I think it's extremely important in this part.
Sure, I do agree.
Mario is a character in itself, and it's as important as Kira, as
lots
Josuke,
of
everyone.
It is a bizarre town. It has like ghost alleys. It has, like a manga artist who's just moved in who licks spiders. It has
it's Tonio, the best stand user in the entire series. The great, like I don't know if I'm digging up too much, but that is like my favorite fight in the series.
Pearl Jam.
Yeah,
It's not
Pearl
a fight.
Jam.
It's just a great use of the
Exactly,
stand.
exactly. It's just that was I said Death 13 was the turning point for me. This was the other turning point where it's like, oh, this is genius. Like,
Yes.
Death 13 is like, oh, this is clever. You can make lots of clever little situations here.
Mm-hmm.
But Pearl Jam was like, okay, of course, not all stand users are evil. Of course they're not. They just want to fucking do their own thing.
They just
want
happen
to
to-
make
they happen
tasty
to-
food.
They also happen to like come next to each other. They
Oh, that was so great.
They tend towards
it's
each
like,
other.
yeah, it's like stand users tend to
like
attract
gravity
each
and-
other.
yeah, they
and then
attract
as soon
each
as they say that, like Kira crosses paths with them, it's fucking great.
Oh,
I fucking
man,
love
so
part 4.
good.
It's
It's
so good.
Thing is like I must say that what I absolutely adore about Part 4 is that its use of stands in a non-combat setting. There's so many like using Harvest to find like lottery tickets
lottery
that have
ticket,
won, and then to fool the lottery commissioner into accepting their money. You know, the lock. It's not actually. It just wants to steal your money because it makes you guilty. Yukaku doesn't want to kill you. She just wants to like rape you with her hair.
The less said
But
about
it's more
Yukako,
about
the
it's
better.
more about the weird like love story, and obviously Araki didn't understand women and had like a lot of fetishes.
Oh,
So,
very fucking clearly.
Um,
Okay, so bad thing about part 4 is that whole Koichi and Yukako thing.
Yeah.
Like, it really just like so Koichi is the secondary Jobro. I guess you could call him primary Jobro.
He's like the outsider who is he's the outsider perspective in that
he would be the protagonist if this wasn't JoJo, because he's literally
Yes.
the guy who introduces the whole part, and
Yes.
you hear it from his point of view.
and he
and
gains
he-
the
and he
stance,
goes
he
through,
gains
like-
the powers.
Yeah, he goes through the shonen progression, like, and it's actually very clearly a Dragon Ball reference with his fucking hair changing throughout the whole part. And yeah, so but all of that gets undone by the fact that he falls in love with this psycho fucking bitch who wants to kidnap
Well,
him. And
see, that's
in
the
fact
weird
did
part
kidnap him.
because this woman kidnaps him, and in what's the film? It's like not Carrie, Misery, very Misery like in that she's gonna try and make him love her. I think that's a standard like anime trope or something. The woman who's like completely psycho but loves someone, and then Koichi like defeats her stand with his like unlocking his stand's ability in a cool way, but
turns her hair
obviously-
white. Ugh, how gross.
Really? Oh, I can't remember that. But I need to watch this part again. But he takes sympathy on her and doesn't beat her up or anything. He has sympathy, and what you would expect from that would be that they both learn to grow as humans. She grows as like, okay, what I'm doing is wrong. I need to change my ways. And Koichi has like more sympathy, whatever, and that's it. But it turns out Koichi goes, oh, actually, yeah, I did fancy you. Yeah, cool.
And she's still stalking him a little bit, but not as much as before, so it's all right now.
Even
And
though
now
he's this
they're going out,
4'3"
how sweet.
wimp, and she's this like 6'2" goddess. Like,
Oh, let me sacrifice my face for you, my love, because you are my true love.
I know. Yeah. Whatever. Araki doesn't understand women.
Very
And-
clearly.
But I still love a lot of the non-combat in this. The combat stuff is great because they actually give the main Josuke an actual power that has creative uses. In that his power can he can repair anything that has been broken.
They make such good use of that. It's
And
fucking
it's
great.
So
Like,
creatively used.
Like Kira getting his hand cut off is like, oh, he's fucking run off, but we've got his hand. Therefore, if we fix his hand, the hand will guide us towards him.
Yes.
Great shit like that.
He
And,
can,
like the
he
glass
can
shard
heal.
at the end.
Oh my god, yeah. The fact
And
that
obviously-
he breaks up parts of a glove for his mouth to allow something to crawl down his throat so that he can fix it and then pull it out entrapped in the glove is so
that was
fucking
great.
clever.
And also, he's on a motorbike. He's gonna crash into a fucking baby in a pram.
So he
It's like,
destroys it
punch
and
the
then-
bike apart, fly over him, and then fix it by the time I land. That's
man.
fucking great.
But I mean, the thing is his stand is definitely more of a healing stand, so he can heal other Joe Bros, so that they can actually sustain wounds that would be like fucking fatal. And like
you can't fix death though, because that's not a thing.
You can't fix death, but he can't heal himself.
It totally is a thing.
Yeah.
So this is the start. So before we said like, anyone can die. Everything's on the table here. Any character can die. This is the start of like Araki going, maybe I'm not going to kill everyone. And from this part onwards, there's always some sort of contrived healing thing. This one is not too contrived. Part 5 is a little contrived. 6 is very contrived. 7 is zombie horse.
Whatever. But the thing is like, because in part 3 it's like, well, if they sustain a fatal wound, they're dead. Because no stand can heal them. They got nothing, so they can get maimed slightly. Whereas in this, it's like, oh shit, he's got his fucking head punched apart, or he's got his gut punched open. That's fine. Josuke will heal him.
It's literally exploded. It's okay.
Jotaro is melted.
I will say, despite all of that, the tensions are very high. They do get very high.
Of course.
It's, no one really dies.
The only Shigeki dies.
Oh yeah, of course, Shigechi. Who cares?
So, I mean, it's kind of sad though. He's like a weird loser who finds friends and like has a purpose in the world, even though they do abuse his power. And then he gets killed in the most horrible fucking way.
It's incredible. Like that. Yeah, the introduction of Kira, as we've already said, is fantastic, and him killing Shigechi is brilliant. And Killer Queen has already touched the doorknob, etc.
It's so good.
Like how it turns from like, oh, there's a hand in the bag, what? To he
is a. But I mean, even then, you like follow him as he goes on a murder. Oh my god, where he just like follows the people into their apartment that he finds annoying. And he murders the like boyfriend in front of her, and he just like the scene of like
that's like
I know, but he's so well done. Well done.
No, that shot of him like exploding the guy and like walking past him really casually is one of the best shots in the whole series.
Or he's holding onto the woman's hand, and then you just see in her silhouette, her shadow just like puffs away into smoke. It's like, so man. So let's before we get to the end of like the ending, let's talk about so you get Nijimura Okuyasu as best boy
for sure,
and they do a very interesting thing with him in that they actually have a stupid character in JoJo
so what would happen if a fucking moron had a stand?
Exactly, he has an incredibly powerful ability that is so incredibly powerful and like has so many limitless applications, but someone who's so very fucking stupid, so he can't do anything apart from direct attacks.
And to be fair, he's not even that stupid. He's like normal.
He's like a normal. Your normal average bloke.
He's not JoJo smart.
He's not,
and that means he's a terrible stand user.
Yeah, and I kind of like that.
It's great.
You got Rohan, who is.
I fucking love Rohan.
And
Araki clearly fucking loves Rohan.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Definitely not a self-insert.
Definitely not a self-insert. And you've also got like just like weird stuff, like they have Earth, Wind and Fire, the guy who's like maybe an alien, probably a stand user.
He's also great. Everything is so great about it. All of the characters are sick except Yukaka.
All of the fights are really good. They're all really good and memorable. Most of them. So much more than part 3. He really gets his groove with the stands.
Yeah, and for the most part, there's not many contrived stands. Like he's still, all of the ideas are very fresh and very, like, distinctive, I guess you could say. Like in later parts, it gets to the point where it's like, it does this, but also this kind of sort of thing. Like not so much this part. Towards the end, a bit with Paper Guy. Oh, if I find out what your tell is that you're scared, then I can turn you into paper. It's like, okay. It does create one of the best gifs.
Of course. It turns the paper.
Opening the paper and the gun comes out.
It's really good. But that's the thing, is a lot of the best stands are always the ones that are so clearly, you can clearly tell what their abilities are with very minimal dialogue and description. You can just tell what their abilities are. And this part has a lot of that. it's very clearly telegraphed all of the abilities most of the time. And so, a lot of it is just really great. And then the ending where you fight Kira is just... God, it's incredible. I wish there wasn't so much like the father is in the fucking photograph finding other stand users to get in the way. Even though if you're just stabbing random people, why would they have any... That bit was sort of like, okay, is this filler? Does he not know what to do?
It is filler, but it's extremely fucking good filler.
It's good filler, of course it is. But it's like when Kira, he gets like found out and he feels like he's losing it. You then, some of the other stand users we've been introduced to, like Cinderella, gets is it Love Deluxe? Is the stand? Or is it?
No, Love Deluxe is Yukako's. Her one.
Oh, that's it. Yes, so it's just Cinderella gets used to change his identity, and you're like, oh my god, that's so clever. And so he then becomes like there's a serial killer, but he's hiding once again as another everyday person in a different life, and they have to deduce who this person is by literally using detective skills and knowing what his abilities are. And that's so wonderful. And then, even then, he gains a Requiem stand.
Not officially a Requiem stand.
Not officially, but his stand gets pierced with an arrow, and he gains Killer Queen Bites the Dust, which is the most overpowered thing ever.
It is rather OP.
It's so overpowered, but this is actually one of those times where it's extremely overpowered, but they have a very clever way of beating it that is very clever, I think.
So have you noticed this thing with Requiem stands? If we're classing that as a Requiem stand, the ability they give you is always the exact thing that you need at that precise moment in time.
Yes.
Every single time.
Every single time. I don't know why, but I mean, maybe it's. I wonder if it's just. I wonder if it's just bad writing.
It's like JoJo is just like Araki writing himself into a corner and then writing himself out.
Yes.
And that is just the fucking epitome of that, really, isn't it?
Of course.
It's like, he gets the ability that solves it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But at least it's entertaining.
It is very entertaining. His ability becomes, instead of just being like he can get rid of evidence or blow things up. He can, if anyone figures out his identity, they die.
And then
That's
time
it.
reverses to the point.
And then time reverses. Yes. So it's like a time loop. Back to where only one character knows the time loop because he's caught in the stand. So the only way to stop it is by making Kira release his time loop. And the only way to do that, I can't even remember, but they do something really clever where they force him.
So what happens is, that in order to put Bites the Dust into someone, he has to physically move his stand out of him and into someone, in this case Hayato.
Yes.
So that means he doesn't have the stand to defend himself. He's just standless at that point. Mm-hmm. Which means that when he gets overconfident, which he really fucking has every right to be overconfident because he's fucking won.
Of course.
And he gives away his own identity, and Josuke's there. He's like, oh, Spider-Man pointed at him. It's you. And then he's given away his own identity, and then he starts attacking him. So it's like, oh, I have to withdraw Killer Queen and defend myself.
And so then it becomes the final stand battle.
Yes.
And then
before even that point, so if someone dies because of Bites the Dust, even after time resets and you get to that point again, they haven't found out again. Even if they don't find out the identity again, they still die. Mm-hmm. So suddenly every single main character dies. First Rohan dies, and then Josuke dies. Okuyasu
Jotaro dies.
Everyone fucking dies, and Hayato's fucking screaming as he resets to breakfast again, and then he calls up Josuke. That's what happens, right? That's the clever thing.
Yes.
He tells Josuke to arrive there 10 minutes earlier because he got called in the morning. It was unrelated, so he disguises that as a call in order to call Josuke and get him to arrive 10 minutes earlier, which then initiates the final battle, which we just described the setup.
Because it's a Groundhog Day where Hayato has to he remembers all these experiences, so he's improving what he's doing each time. But also Kira is extremely smart, and so it's understanding that he's doing something suspicious, and so he is also interpreting as well. So it's a very big mind game on like two different parts. Very, very smart, very, very clever. Araki's best work that he wrote himself into a corner, but somehow made a masterpiece out of. It really, I can't stress enough how good Kira is as a stand user. This like silent serial killer who does everything he can, even impersonating and fixing a marriage.
He's a really bad guy.
Like, isn't that such an interesting scene where he comes home and he saves the marriage of this woman who's clearly unhappy with this like nonce, not nonce, and it's
Not
just
nonce.
it's just an interesting dynamic. Like they didn't have to include that. It could have just been a woman in the background, but I find that extremely interesting that they go that route.
Yeah, it is. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's about the evil that can just be hiding in plain sight.
Yeah,
And that's the whole point. That's why it takes so long to set up the town.
and he gets
Doesn't
defeated
take
by
as long to
ghosts. Actual ghosts exist, by the way.
Yeah, actual ghosts. That's canon.
Yeah. But yeah, and so they defeat him with very clever stand powers. He gets absolutely crazy, and everything's revealed in public. He says he's had an erection looking at the Mona Lisa.
And then Ambulance Chan saves the day.
Ambulance destroys him. So he gets the best.
Really disturbing, by the way. That
fucking
very
rolls
brief
his
shot of
head
him.
backwards.
The fucking his head rolling backwards under the tire is really fucked up. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah.
Fucking dies.
Yeah. It is. And then at the end, his like spirit goes to the place where we've already been before in the ghost alleyway, and it comes full circle,
and his body
his
gets
first
torn apart and dragged to hell.
It was his first victim as well, who is guarding it, and so it's like the whole full circle. Their spirits are released into the afterlife. The evil is defeated.
Yeah, and like everyone pointing up to the sky in the openings and stuff, they're pointing up to all their fucking dead friends the whole time, and you don't even realise. And it's like, now we've set you free, we've killed the bad guy.
Yeah.
What a great part.
So before we end, there's two things I want to point out. One, this part really has the rock, paper, scissors vibe down. Like with the fact that Jotaro, you think is the coolest, most strongest, can stop time, is super awesome, powerful, and then he's defeated by a fucking rat. And so it's like, okay, it's very much you can be countered if there is a power that has an ability that is a perfect counter to you. It exists.
Or if you happen to be outsmarted by a rat.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a better stand user than John Garlier. And the last thing I want to say is that they did it with part 3 in that they changed the opening depending on what part of the story they're in. So when Dio's introduced, they have Dio, who stops time halfway through the song and just adds an extra cool little bit to the opening. In this, they have like 4 fucking openings where it's all to do with like time reversing and going forward, and based on
there's
what part
like
of the story
fucking
they're in
9
with Kira's power.
of each.
Really,
Not each
really
one,
good.
but like 9 total of the 3 different. There's like very subtle changes, even in the first one.
Yes.
And I don't know if the second one changes, but fuck Chase.
I love Chase.
Chase, yeah. No.
Oh, okay.
It's not very. I saw this really fucking funny video of like it's just called like JoJo opening 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just has the opening riff and the vocals never kick in. It's just the riff.
Oh really?
And it just keeps going for the whole 1.5 minutes. It's so fucking funny.
Oh, that's good.
Because you can't tell at first, and then like 40 seconds in, you're like, wait, are they meant to be vocals?
Fair enough. That's good. I like it. I really like part 4. I really do. It's just I wish there was a couple of things where he could have easily have been like a reason why Jotaro stays in Morio.
I think stand arrows are good enough reason.
Yeah, but the thing is the stand arrows don't get... They sort of get told, like, oh, he got made into a stand, sort of, maybe. Better go find those arrows. And then it turns out there's 2 arrows in the same town, and I'm like, you know... There's... yeah.
It doesn't matter, because Yoshikage Kira.
The good stuff is so good. It's like 9.5 to 10 out of 10. It's so good. And then the stuff that is annoying is more like a 5 out of 10, and just sort of like, okay. Like you get like the 10 out of 10 where you have the alien who is a dice that vomits when sirens go past, which is really funny. And then you get Jankin Boy.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were bringing up when you said rock paper scissors. Like, what? Don't bring that up. Well, he's not too bad. He gives Rohan a run for his money, and it's nice to see Rohan beat up a kid.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not a fan of Rohan either as much. He's just a dick.
He's so fucking cool.
No, he's just a dick. He licks.
No, he's awesome. Yeah, he
has the great like I refuse scene, and he licks the what is the bit where he licks the spider and he has that like weird face which looks like a Junji Ito fucking drawing.
Yeah, it's great. It's fucking great.
I do know. I do
I've
really
won
like
it. Punch in the face.
Yeah. There are really great scenes in this show. I can't stress how much really great stuff there is in only 28 episodes or whatever. But it's I
like
don't know.
30 something, right? 36.
I feel like there could be like a revised, just a slightly revised story in the future, and it will go from like a 9.5 to an 11 out of 10. Best part ever.
See, I'm going to say the opposite of that, and I would say Diamond is Unbreakable could have just like kept going on, and I would have been more than happy. But obviously, part 4 without Kira is like not part 4. So I agree. Araki himself said that he could have kept going, but without Kira, there's no point.
Yeah.
So the takeaway is that Kira is fucking awesome. Part 4 is fucking awesome.
I like part 4 a lot. I don't want to be like I like part 4 a lot because it's like Majora's Mask with Zelda in that like I think Majora's Mask is a 9.5 out of 10, but you know when you're comparing it to like part 5 and part 3, which have that just like that's
a very
innovation,
weirdly good comparison. Part 3 is Ocarina of Time. Part 4 is Majora's Mask.
That's exactly how I'm comparing it.
That makes sense because I like part 4 more than part 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I really, 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 really like it. I really like it.
But because I like it, you hate it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's move on to part 5. JoJo goes to Italy and has a grand old time. I have training in half an hour, so I think we're only going to get to like the fucking... we might have to carry on at the end. How late are you going to stay awake? Because I'm going to be training for 2 hours, so...
Probably not that long.
So we might have to do another day where we talk about it, maybe tomorrow.
We will.
To actually get... Oh shit, Cyberpunk got a 7 out of 10 on GameSpot.
Lol, I knew it.
Oh, here we go. People are going to fucking explode. So, part 5, JoJo in Italy. This is an interesting part because it's very segmented from the whole JoJo timeline. Mate, it's not shit.
I know it's not shit. I'm trolling.
It's like its own bubble where it's barely influenced by any of the main JoJo storyline.
Yeah, Koichi's
and not
there
that that's a bad thing. Polnareff turns up at the end for a little bit and then stand arrows, and that's about it.
Yeah, but it's its own self-contained shit. Mm-hmm. And apparently it's the most popular part in Japan. Really? I wouldn't be surprised. By quite a long way.
This is the it's your classic great JoJo, refined, really good stuff.
It's like a more refined part 3 in a way.
Yes, a much more refined part 3 where there's a clear end goal given immediately to defeat the boss.
Defeat drugs.
Defeat drugs themselves. And they give all of the main characters have very interesting stands, and they tend to put characters together to have team battles more, which I think is really great, like creative and innovative in this. In that, you know, I think some of the best fights in JoJo are in part 5.
I agree. My favourite fight in the whole series is in this part.
I bet it's the same part that I'm thinking of, but we'll get to it.
It might be, but I don't know.
So you start off in Italy. You're introduced to a blonde-haired boy called Giorno Giovanna, who it turns out is Dio's son, because Dio is obviously the most handsome, charismatic, beautiful man ever, and went off fucking everyone. So he has multiple children, and it turns out Giorno is one of his children. And is a good boy and has lived a bad life and wants nothing more than to join the mafia to be a good boss.
Become a gangster.
To become a gangster. He could play football in the Serie A, but he wants to be a gangster. And it's an interesting... He like... The story unfolds very naturally. Like, he gets embroiled in the mafia by doing certain things, and his character is the most interesting of a lot of these characters, I think, because he's a mixture of Dio and Jonathan.
I think Giorno is very boring.
Really, I think he's quite interesting.
I think that
he's quite ruthless, but
he's above Jonathan and Jotaro, but like
yeah, he's not. He's not like... I don't think he's Josuke, because Josuke or Joseph are very, very human, very flawed, very interesting, and bombastic characters. But as an idea of fusing both evil incarnate and the absolute paragon of justice and ideals, I think they do a good job with Giorno. But then again, I don't think this is Giorno's story, though. This is Bucciarati's story.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm going to say is, like, if that is the point of him, that he's meant to be these two, like, polar opposites combining, which obviously you do get with him, like, doing Dio poses and all that sort of shit. Mm-hmm. It's not the point of the story, and that sort of undermines his whole character, because, like, Bruno is very, very clearly the main character.
Yes.
Like, it's like, even though Giorno gets to be on the
this is it. This is where he starts introducing characters into these JoJo's arcs, where it's not... Sorry, go on. Okay. Where it's not necessarily the JoJo that is the main influence, the main person who drives the plot and has the most agency. He obviously is a big character, but he's more of an outsider than like Bucciarati. And eventually, when you go on to Gyro, who is like his magnus opus.
Magnum, not Magnus.
Yeah, magnum opus, whatever. And it's not. I don't think of Giorno as the main character. I think of him as a main character. I think of the group as the main character.
Deuteragonist, I believe the term is.
Yes, because they interact so much with each other, they all have equal agency in the story.
Primarily Bruno and Giorno.
Yes,
but yeah. So yeah, as I was gonna say, this part is where Araki very clearly starts to focus a lot more on character and themes. Like, there's barely fucking any in the parts before this. Like, you have the characters and they sort of develop, they have their own thing. But this one, he dedicates a lot of time to giving everyone a backstory, giving everyone a motivation. Yes. And then at the very end, he's like, oh, I can actually make a theme out of this. So then adds a random flashback that, like, adds a theme to the whole part.
Yeah.
And this is where he starts thinking a lot about.
Oh yes, this is like, where he goes like, oh shit, am I clever? Can I
am I an artist?
Write well? Am I an artist? And then like you it's nearly there. It's like he's like it's his prototype. He's nearly got it. Like each of the characters is like a broken outcast human sort of. And they're all taken in by Bucciarati, who acts
really
as like a mother
fucking
figure.
pays off. It really pays off. Like the core gang, like taken individually is like, okay, they're not too interesting, I guess, but the way they all interact with each other and their relationship with each other and their reactions to certain things happening to each other are what really, really sells this part.
Yes.
But
I know. Not only that though, it's the villains also have, instead of just being monsters of the week, a lot of them have like they show a scene where they go to like their mates' funerals. Like, you know, when they die, when one of them dies, it affects them as well. Which obviously we'll get into later. And so he has a lot more nuance with these characters. Which I really like. And since it's set around, I don't know, what's the main plot? It's just trying to figure out who the boss is.
Well, it's to bodyguard Trish. Okay, so here's the thing. The main plot of this fucking part doesn't make sense. It's like, so you need to protect Trish so she doesn't get assassinated by these guys who are trying to assassinate her in order for me to kill her. Can you please explain this to me, Jaz?
Well,
why does he need them to protect her if he's just going to end up killing her?
Well, no. Okay. So, obviously, Trish has been protected. Okay, yeah. Trish... Okay. No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. It makes sense that they needed some way of getting some sort of information about the boss so that Abakio could use his stand to find out who he is. But it doesn't make any sense that the boss would just come and kill them anyway.
They didn't betray... Okay, so maybe, I guess you could say was that he had to personally kill her so that people couldn't use her to get to him.
For some reason, I thought the boss didn't know much about his daughter, and the wall-eyed gangster has been taking care of her this whole time, but has realised that it's now slipped, and he needs Butcherati to help, because they know each other wants to defeat the boss. But I don't think that is the actual case. I think Araki doesn't just get it.
Yeah, so you're talking about part 4 being aimless. This really bothered me from the start. I didn't fucking understand why anyone was doing this shit except Giorno. Obviously, once they betray Passione, it starts getting better. But like, the setup to this part is fucking bizarre.
Well, no, because right away at the start it's like, okay, Giorno joins the gang. They've killed Polpo. Okay, but they know that there is a big sum of money that Polpo has, so they need to get that money because that will increase their influence in the gang. Fine. Upon doing this, they also realise that, there's a secret daughter to the boss. If we can help her, then we can find out more about the boss. And then if we find out more about the boss, we can find the boss and we can kill the boss. That's like A to B to C to D. But the problem is when you get to D, you realise that C doesn't make sense going back to B, and going back to A doesn't really make much sense either. Trish should have been fucking murderized at 8 seconds fucking into her life.
Yeah, because realistically, how could people get information out of her? Because she doesn't fucking know anything.
No. Diavolo. And I mean, it makes sense for the boss to kill her with his personality, or try to kill her, but
You mean kill her personally, not with his personality, right?
If it was a more like a secret revelation that he didn't know about, it's like a loose end he needs to tie up. That would make more sense as a character.
I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah,
he's just a guy that can't handle his past.
Yes, he's trying to erase all aspects of his past so much that we don't even know about his past, and it's all weird. But anyway, so basically the gang are great. They all get along with each other, even though they're all like misfits. But they are misfits in the actual true sense of the word, in that they are cast out from society and wronged, and are taken in by Bruno, who is, even at a young age, has this like unnatural motherly instinct almost.
Yeah.
And did Bruno nearly win Best Girl in the Anime Awards?
He should have done.
I think because he was nominated and he nearly won. I think.
Really fucking hell.
He was like second place, which is very funny. But But yes, you get just a lot of like going through Italy and like fighting off your standard stand users who want to. They're all in the mafia. I've heard that Bucciarati is blah blah blah. I'm gonna go kill him. And there's a lot of great, just a lot of great out of context stuff in this part. Lots of really refined, good stuff. It's almost like a meme in every episode.
The adaptation kicks into fucking overdrive.
Oh, damn right!
Overdrive.
Like it's the four-panel fucking dance.
Like,
is
the previous
incredible.
parts, like there's some dodgy animation to be honest in quite a lot of parts, but the style just sort of makes you not care. Yeah. This one is stylish as fuck and beautifully animated. Has some of the greatest like TV anime shit you'll ever see.
And it's like also the character designs are now into that like lithe, supple.
Absolute fucking fashion disasters.
Oh yeah, everyone looks like their clothes have been cut with a fucking cheese grater.
Yeah. Classic.
But yeah, so it's all great. It's your very standard JoJo fights, except they have, you know what each of the characters' stands are. They're introduced right and early. Like these are what their abilities are. They each have a fight. Great, you get it. And then from then on, it's like, okay, we're putting Guido Mister with Narancia, or we're putting Abacchio with Bucciarati, or we're putting Mister with Giorno, or we're putting
Fugo with no one.
Fugo with no one because fuck Fugo. So they kick Fugo out of the story because he realised his stand is too powerful. They can't write it. He can't write it in any way that makes any sense, and so it does it in an interesting way in that the group decides to betray the gang, and Fugo doesn't. He decides he can't take that risk, and so bye Fugo.
Yeah, never mentioned again. But there isn't like a novel written about him with Araki's blessing, where he's like, oh, he's really guilty about it though.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, it's more of it's an easier way to do it without actually killing the character off.
Yeah, it's like whatever. He really made no impact, so it really doesn't bother me.
I mean, the anime like expands upon his story more than the manga. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, because he didn't have any sex abuse in his past.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, that was all in the novel, so they put that in the anime, which is great.
Interesting.
But yeah, once you have like La Squadra, who are the assassins introduced and they betray the gang, then it's like, oh yeah, we're getting into it. The thing is, I don't understand where. You're right. A lot of the story doesn't make sense, like most of JoJo, if you think about it too hard.
If you think about it too hard, yeah.
Like Polnareff,
yeah. For some reason, this is the only
hacker.
one where the details bother me. Even though I've said multiple times the details don't matter, this one it actually does bother me.
Yeah,
because it seems to there seems to be a point to it.
Sure, but for me, it's like so stylish that I'm definitely like I don't care. Whereas I don't know why, but Polnareff turning up at the end was a bit weird for me. Like, oh, you're a super hacker now. Cool. I get it. It's cool.
So I think Diavolo is the worst villain in the series. So, but
probably
the way they set up his threat, I think he feels like the most threatening in the entire series. I don't know if it's just the anime where it feels like that.
No, I do agree. He feels like absolute monster.
Yeah, it feels like you're about to get fucking ripped apart as soon as he's on screen. There's like palpable tension. It's I don't know how the fuck they managed it.
Well,
like he just feels so violently strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
His power is so reflective of his desires. His desires and backstory are so. I think they're wonderfully written because there's so many like disturbing and creepy things that you sort of see, but you never get the full picture because he doesn't want anyone to know about your backstory. So why should you?
Yeah. I will say I said he's the worst villain, but that doesn't mean he's a bad villain at all.
I think he's wonderful. I don't think he's better than Kira. I don't think he's better than Dio.
Diavolo on his own is the worst villain, but with Doppio, now you're onto something.
Oh yeah. So like the absolutely incredible idea of having the final reveal of him being a schizophrenic, multiple personality disorder.
Yeah, that's not necessarily schizophrenia.
No, but that is I went I like sat up from my seat and went, oh!
It is fucking Tim Allen.
It's so good. Like, just the idea of that's how good he is at hiding, in that he is hiding from himself as well.
And also the fact that Doppio is a really likeable character.
Yeah, I know. He's a really sweet kid.
So, Doppio versus Risotto is my favourite fight in the whole series.
Oh, really? Oh, I like that fight a lot, but that's not my favourite fight.
I don't know if it's just the anime, because like they fucking go mental with the animation in that part. But that is quintessential mind game. I knew you were gonna do that. No, I knew you were gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's fucking the essence of JoJo. It's
like loses his foot on purpose to win.
I rewatched that fight a lot because it's so fucking good.
It's good. Like when his like blood turns yellow because they haven't got enough iron in the blood. I was like, yeah, Raki likes that fact so much that he wanted to use it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Like, no, but him with like, where he's like fucking punching the ground and King Crimson's arms come out behind him.
Oh yeah.
Like the scissors coming out of his neck and vomiting razor blades and shit. Oh, it's so
wonderful. Because Metallica is a really terrifying stand, and it's really weird because you're like, this is a bad guy versus another bad guy. In our minds.
I'm rooting for the bad guy.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, who's gonna win? Like this is incredible.
And it almost feels like a fucking cheat that like Narancha ends the fight.
I know, because you think, oh shit, the bad guys could actually take care of the main threat if it wasn't for the good guys interfering accidentally.
Yeah, I fucking like Doppio is so good. Doppio is such a great character, I think.
Yeah. I like Doppio. I think Doppio with Diavolo makes it work a lot, because I think Diavolo as a crime boss who is so ruthless and would do absolutely anything to get rid of any trace of his past, to keep power, is I mean that's just the quintessential mafia boss, really.
The thing with Diavolo is that he comes across as really sort of pathetic in a way. Like, he's obviously super fucking strong, but he's really pathetic. Oh, I don't want my daughter to reveal who I am. It's like, oh, you've genuinely angered me. Fucking shut. And then you've got Doppio, who's like he's the same person, but he's kept in the dark about this whole thing and thinks he's being really loyal to his boss. Like, the two of them combined are fantastic. Diavolo on his own is really not too. He's definitely not Kira, we'll say that.
Diavolo isn't like he is just a bad guy. He is a evil bad person who knows he's bad and is pathetic, and you don't like him. He's not charismatic.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's.
So
I think
Dio
and
Kira are very charismatic. Diavolo is just a criminal. Like
he's the least charismatic JoJo villain, I would say.
Of course he is. He is a nasty, just a fucking bastard, which is fine because that is also a different kind of villain. And I like how he's used in the story, and it makes sense as organized crime ain't great.
It does kind of suck that he's technically responsible for all the parts.
Oh yeah,
because he's the one who discovered the stand arrows and sold them, so he's technically the reason Dio has a stand.
It should have just been that Enya sold one to him or something, and he just got one and he built an empire on it, and that's it. But the fact that he discovered the arrows for some reason and then gave them to Enya is whatever.
He must have been like fucking 12 when he did that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he must be like 50 in the fucking part, even though he looks like a 21-year-old.
People are like, "Oh, Doppio, you're like 18 years old." And then he takes his shirt off and he's 30. He's actually 40.
It's weird. That was unnecessary. I didn't think that was needed. That's why I feel like the more detached from this series it is, the better this story would be.
Exactly. But speaking of unnecessary, I think Diavolo gets punished way, way, way too hard. Way too hard.
We can get to this in a bit. First of all, I want to talk about my favourite part. My favourite bit is that the Grateful Dead fight on the train.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying this was your favorite.
In that you have a very powerful and evil assassin of the Grateful Dead, where he can age people and kill them.
I notice you're not using any Italian names here. Care to give it a go?
Sorbet, Giaccio, I can't remember what his fucking name is. It's Gelato. No wait, what's the fucking...
Gelato is the Beach Boy, right?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I really don't know. But basically, him and Beach Boy. I'm just gonna call him by their stand name.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's like a younger Beach Boy. It's almost like a more pathetic stand where it's like a fishing rod that can search for things sort of and go through walls. Not like super threatening, but it's not the worst stand. And he's quite ineffectual. He's quite cowardly. He doesn't really like killing. He's like a trainee, but really looks up to his bro, who's a more experienced assassin. And during the fight, obviously the whole gang fights together to figure out what the power is, and then Mister shot in the fucking head 3 times, and luckily his stand has the ability to literally counter that.
How lucky!
How lucky! And then it's like a really gritty tooth and nail fight between Butcherati and the guy, and then he eventually gets fucking kicked under the fucking train and dies, and because of that, then you think, oh, that's the end of it. They're just going to take care of Ding Dong. But then it turns out that that inspires Beach Boy to grow and become the hardened killer that his brother wanted him to be. And then his stand gets more he now has no shackles, and he completely uses his stand in the most vicious way he can.
And then
and so
Adi.
there you go. You get the best fucking ending ever.
The second best rush punch in the series.
Yes, absolutely. Really just top quality stuff from start to finish. Really clever, the disguises, the mystery on the train, the use of space, and the fact that they take other characters out of it in a way that makes sense. I think it's just a really great written part. And then afterwards,
the thing that bothers me about the Grateful Dead fight, and it's a consistent thing that bothers me with all stand battles, is that this is my stand's ability, except this very, very, very specific thing that somehow affects it. And in this case, it's if something is cold,
doesn't age as much.
It doesn't get aged.
Yeah,
and it's what the fuck are you on? What does that mean?
I do agree. The actual abilities and their weaknesses, when they're more difficult to convey, then they're worse fights, I think.
Yeah.
You have Giaccio with the White Album. He controls ice. Really
I don't
terrifying.
Mind that one too much. That one makes sense.
It's a really good fight because you understand immediately, and when he falls in the lake, you see the only place that he breathes out of is in the back of his neck. Yeah. So everything's told to you about his weakness.
That's good.
But then you get Dragon's Dream, where you need 10 pages.
Don't even bring up Dragon's Dream.
Yeah, you know
we'll
what I mean.
To that. Yes, I know.
Or Oasis. No, not Oasis. Green Day, where it's not clear because of how the animation is. It needs to be, if you lower, then it gets more powerful, or it uses more. And so those are more confusing to explain.
That's what I was saying. With part 4, all the stands are very distinctive and very I get it, except the paper guy. This one is where they start bringing in a lot of this shit. And it's not too bad in this part. There's still some really, really creative and interesting and
I do agree. A lot of the stands themselves are better in part 4, but the creativeness of what they have in part 5 is really good, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think a lot of part 5 comes from a relationship of the gang and everyone and stuff like that. As I said, I find it less exciting in terms of the stand battles, except for Risotto and Doppio, as I said.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And we can't not mention the 7-page Muda.
Oh yeah, of course. Really
fucking great.
He's the most.
That's another thing I rewatched constantly.
That prick needed to fucking die. He was the most evil Oh,
Yeah,
makes
he
skin crawl.
fucking deserved that. And I love that there's a recurring thing of JoJo villains getting punched into rubbish. Into rubbish bins.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
It happens
Yeah,
so
it
often.
literally is trash. I really like that.
The fucking Crunchyroll subtitles really annoyed me there, though. I don't know if you noticed this as well.
Well,
But so he's like, oh, you said if I didn't move, then you wouldn't hurt me. And then Giorno's like, you think I'd show mercy to a piece of shit like you? And then he goes, in the manga he says something like, you, like, Kisama Yaro, something like that, just like, oh, you fucking bastard. But in the Crunchyroll subtitles he says, you're so mean!
oh, really?
And that really fucking bothered me. Because I can understand that much Japanese at least, where he clearly says like,
he's calling him a
Yaro!
bastard. Yeah.
It's like
Sure.
fucking... And then you have
But
this
that's just
extremely violent fucking beating the shit out of him. It's like,
But that's just like when you hear like him saying "sticky fingers" and it's like
Oh, yeah.
Zipper Man.
Well,
It's like,
let's not even
okay.
get into that. That's easy fucking pickings right there.
But anyway,
But anyway.
the thing is because of how we'll get on to the final bit, but because of how well the characters are, their backstories are explained, their interactions and relationships are done with each other. When Abakio dies, when Narancha dies, you know, you feel really, they fucking are like, oh shit, they're the most like impactful deaths in the series.
Like, yeah, well, at this point anyway. But Abakio
Yeah.
especially, and that's almost entirely because Abakio, he's been a dick the whole time. It's like,
Yeah.
you understand why he's a dick and all this sort of shit. But like, Narancha's reaction, at least in the Japanese dub, I don't know if the English dub does it justice, but
I don't know.
Narancha's reaction is fucking heartrending.
Yeah,
It's
his friend
unbelievably
has
sad.
died and they have to move on. Like, it's
Yeah,
really
it's like, it's
upsetting.
like, the line that really got me is like, are we really gonna leave him there? And it's,
Yeah.
oh man,
I
it's
know.
awful.
And even then it's like Bruno dies and is barely brought back by Giorno, but is essentially a walking corpse and knows he's going to die. And so when he does, it's like it's also like this inevitability, and it's sad when it happens still. Narancha's is just like fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, like brutal as well. It's like the Avdol effect, really.
Yeah,
Except you care more about him.
sure. And then it's like, yeah, it's and the final fight is quite good because it's all like mind swapping because of Silver Chariot Requiem.
Yeah, it's weird. There's a bit of like Freaky Friday comedy shit followed
Yeah.
by. Do you remember? Because I completely forgot. But like Silver Chariot Requiem, in addition to swapping bodies and making them fall asleep, also mutates them into horrible monsters. Do you remember
Into
that?
Cronenberg's, yes. And also,
I
the way to
completely
defeat
forgot
that
about
is
that,
to
and
punch.
I rewatched it. I was like, what?
And it was like something to do with the shadows being constantly in front of them, and so
Yeah,
they had
like-
to punch the
yeah.
light from behind their head.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I know it's low hanging fruit to say that maybe Araki had some mind altering substances, but those are the ones where I'm thinking like, where did this come from? Why is this? What idea is this? Like, could you not think of a way to convey this as a stand idea?
No.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's an absolutely bonkers final fight against King Crimson, who's really, along with Epitaph, is really like, oh shit, this guy's really fucking powerful. How do you beat him? You make your main character invincible.
You make a beat everything stand.
Literally beat everything stand. So much so that they couldn't use him in any part because he's just too powerful.
It's like Gold Experience Requiem is the problem solver. Like
Yes.
he could beat Poochie. He could beat Poochie. Like,
Yes.
just instantly. And,
He could beat
like,
any stand user. He is God. He's the most
It's
powerful stand user.
It's unbelievable. He has achieved power like beyond the scope of human imagination to the
Yes.
extent that he doesn't know what his stand ability does, and all he does is just like reform the mafia.
Yeah, I know. It literally is that any problem or conceivable ill that could ever happen to anyone or anyone he knows will be instantly solved. That's
Yeah.
how powerful his stand is.
That is literally the ability as well.
Yes.
Like, resets to 0, whatever that means. So any problem gets reset to 0.
Yes,
Therefore, Diavolo, the problem is that he can skip time. So there's like an ironic sort of punishment where, so Diavolo's trying to like erase his past. Therefore, his punishment is that he has to constantly relive his death.
Yeah, relive everything over and over again.
Yeah.
Which, I mean...
fucked up, by the way. Infinite death.
I mean, yeah, he is probably the worst villain, though.
Is he? Pillarmen committed genocide?
The Pillarmen committed genocide, and he got shot into space and is living in internal imprisonment.
Dio did all sorts of fucked up. He like merged creatures together, and he murdered dozens and dozens of people. Kira is a serial killer who murdered dozens and dozens of people.
Okay, Dio is a bad person, obviously, but his final plan is to achieve heaven, and to basically rule over the world. But like, it's not like Dio. I can't defend Dio in any way.
Yeah,
Dio's a bad guy.
I was interested to see where you were going.
He got killed. Yeah.
Yeah. He explodes.
Probably not as much as he deserved, but whatever.
I don't think anyone deserves infinite death, though. Like, I'm just gonna say, I don't think that's a controversial opinion. I don't think anyone deserves infinite death.
I think Diavolo is definitely worse than Kira in terms of evil, because of he's not only distributing drugs and destroying Italian society, but he's constantly murdering everyone.
I mean, but infinite deaths for eternity.
It's pretty bad. I give it that. It's maybe the worst thing ever to happen to someone.
Like, if there was just a quick little, like, a note, just one line in the top corner of the manga panel, it's like, and then Diavolo experienced death for every single person that he killed. Then I'd be like, okay, that's fair enough. That's fine. Fair enough.
I do feel like, because it's weirdly conveyed, because obviously he has these like visions where he goes through all these horrific deaths, but then it's also like the real what actually happened is like his body crawled into a sewer and got stabbed by someone who was a heroin addict, which is in itself like a full circle. Like his drugs ended up killing him.
Yeah.
But then because it's like his spirit is tormented forever, it's like his actual ending doesn't relate in any way to the weird stand ending. I wish the ending was that his Giorno's ability got rid of stand powers or something.
Oh, maybe.
You know, because then it's like he's not like ultimate god powerful, and then Diavolo's death, quote unquote, is full circle.
It almost doesn't matter though, because him getting gold experience Requiem, Diavolo dying, that's the last 20 seconds of the part. Like that is like
yeah, you're not wrong.
And then it's never brought up again.
Yeah, and I mean it is really cool, really stylish, and it's great looking. And then I must admit the episode where it's like the Rolling Stones afterwards.
Yeah. That
is so weird that it comes after the series that it nearly ruined the part for me.
I disagree. And the reason, so it is very fucking weird, I'll give you that. And it's weird because it very much feels like Araki just suddenly realised that he can put themes in stories and decided to put one in at the very end.
Yes.
So it's like Bucciarati dying was fate, but you can fight against fate, but if you do fight against it, it's still gonna happen.
But that definitely makes sense, because obviously part 6 that's the central theme, and so he's clearly, when he's thinking about part 6, he went, maybe if I put this into part 5 a little bit, then it ties over, and it's like, oh shit, did it? I was too late now. Wait, it kind of feels like if they put that episode in the anime in the middle of the fucking series, I think it's fine.
Yeah, if like Bruno had a flashback to it, because obviously he's dying throughout the entire series, and if he like reflects back on it. But I mean, being having it
right at the end is so weird and so jarring.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, what about this extra anime episode that we have? This extra cool, fun adventure with a weird rock.
Yeah, I think. I mean, okay, so it does add a bit of substance to the rest of it.
It does, yes.
Very vague substance, but substance nonetheless. It's weird because it made me realize that JoJo is actually trying to do things, but at the same time, I don't know what the fuck it is trying to do.
It's so close. It's in his hands. It's so good. It's there. It's just not quite, nearly. And I guess that sort of gets figured out in part 6 and 7 and 8.
Oh my god. Yeah, the fact that people hate part 6 is baffling. Well, not baffling because I totally understand it, but
part 6 is probably my second or third favorite.
Wow.
I think.
I mean, well, we'll get to that. I assume you want to go.
Yes, I do. So I guess we'll have to pick this up again.
It's a good place to end though, because this is the end of the anime. So
this is the end of the anime, and then we can talk about manga. Yeah, I love JoJo. Before we go, I just want to intersplice into these. What's your favourite fight from part 4? What's your favourite fight from part? You've already said from part 5. So what's your favourite fight from part 4?
Part 4, Tonio. But if you want to call that fight,
sure. No, it's a stand battle.
Stand battle,
quote unquote. Okay, Tonio, where.
Actual violence would probably just be Kira.
No. Just stand. Arc. Stand.
It depends. The specific phrasing you use changes the answer completely. My favourite arc is Bites the Dust. My favourite stand interaction is Pearl Jam.
Yes, that stand interaction is what I mean. Like, a stand is introduced and the whole part is about that stand. Tonio's great. Obviously, Okuyasu screaming and crying and, like, he vomits and it's like, oh, actually, it's fixed everything.
Have you seen the uncensored version? Have you seen the uncensored version?
I haven't. I need to.
Actually, I posted them in the Discord. You can scroll up and there's like a website with every single change they made.
Nice.
It's ridiculously fucking gory.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll definitely watch that later tonight. Part 4, for me, what is my favourite? I kind of love the... I weirdly love Superfly and the Earth, Wind and Fire. I really... the dice vomiting made me laugh so much.
Yeah, that was really fun.
It's such great comedy timing. I don't know. Killer Queen is obviously just amazing. But... I don't know why I said this when I don't actually have an answer.
Honourable mention to Highway Star, mainly for the ending, where it's like, you're not going to beat up a guy in a hospital bed.
It's so good. He's like, no. And he fixes him up and he says, now I can. Got him.
Yuya Fungami's hospital visit extended. It's fucking great. I love part 4.
That is really good. I really like the Angelo fight at the beginning, I must say.
That seems like a continuation of a part 3 fight, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like,
I think it's just so cleverly done.
Yeah, the swallowing the rubber glove is what always gets me. And him jumping down the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not in the manga, by the way.
No, David Productions, they just know what to do, don't they? Okay, I'm just gonna look up the stands from part 4 because you
have to go though.
I know I do.
Late.
I know I do. John will understand.
That training. Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna practice hammer.
I'm gonna practice my hammer.
That's my hammer sound.
Do you know what? It might be
Jankin Boy.
No, it might be Rat.
Really?
They go on because it's
that uncensored is fucking disgusting. Yeah, I'll find you that link.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me explain to you why it's either Aqua Necklace or Rat. Rat because the part isn't about the rat. It's about Jotaro and Josuke forming like a friendship,
passing
and like an understanding. Yeah, and Rat being an interesting idea for a stand in that they are investigating what literally is vermin that have given of godly power, and Josuke uses ingenious power to be able to not only keep Jotaro alive, and he knows that he has to not be hit by this thing, but he has the only power that can actually find his position. I think it's really well done. But I'll probably just say Aqua Necklace. I think that's just the build up and the fight itself is really good.
Okay.
Yeah, as in terms of like one big fight and clever use of the battle. Right.
Okay.
And until next time, kids.
Until next time. Anime only, stay out.